Hello. Hello, hello, hello. Hey, Admiral Quinton. Hey, Cozy. Welcome on in. Thanks for being here on a holiday, even. I appreciate you being here. And I'm glad I can have a stream. We are gonna, surprise, surprise, write some code today. Bless you, Cozy. And last week, were working on a bunch of stuff because everything was broken. We, fixed a lot of that. There's some of it still left to fix. But I did finish up. We ended the stream realizing that what we were going to do wouldn't work at all in Unity. So I figured out what to do there, and I'll show it off in a minute. But we can jump on over to some code. That's not code. That's not code. Actually, let's put that over here. Things to do on stream. Don't mind me. Last week we were trying to add in chat to the game. It is a single player game, but we want to be able to let everyone playing it chat to each other, and specifically let everyone link the items that they've created to each other. So I'll jump in the game, I'll show it off. But last week we basically built this chat system. It's all client side right now. I still need to build out all the server stuff for sending and receiving messages. But you can now say, oh my god, Cozy is number one. You'll notice we don't lock all these keyboard shortcuts while we're typing because we haven't done that yet. But we will. And theoretically that'll send to all other players that are playing. They can see your messages. We still need to get players to name their characters and a bunch of weird edge case stuff to make chat work. But the cool thing is you can now craft some cool stuff like telescope and an eye of madness. We make something from that. As a reminder, all these items only exist in the client, so there's no static items in the game. Let's craft something else. That's something we need to fix later. But yeah, all these items exist only while you're playing. You're basically creating new items as you play. So it gets a little bit wonky to link those items to other players who might not have that item in their game. However, you can now Control-Alt-click it and it'll show up in chat for everyone. They can open chat, they can hover over it. Tooltip's apparently a little bit broken, but you can send all the items you want and they all will link correctly. And other people will be able to see oh, I finally crafted this thing, or I crafted this really cursed item and I want to show it off. So that's what we built. You press enter to open and close chat. It's pretty self-explanatory. We probably want some way to fade these messages out over time, but they will just go ahead and just scroll forever. So we can send a bunch of messages and then you can, scroll through chat. It's chat. You know how chat works. Speaking of chat, you guys are the best chat, and we're going to be working on other stuff this week. So as I just showed off, we do have some boring code to write, keyboard shortcuts. A couple weeks ago, we added in all these key bindings for all the different windows. You press I to open and close your inventory, K for skills, etc. But obviously, when you're typing, you're going to be pressing those buttons. So we'll build in something. Maybe we'll start with that, something real quick. Quick little fix to prevent all that from happening while you're typing. But what I think we'll end up doing on stream is more fun stuff, which is going to be adding more crafting workstations. So we will see. Hey, Kieran, welcome on in. Thank you for hydrate. I have water here and I have coffee. So I'll go with the water for now. You really made progress. Thank you. Yeah. I meant to do all that chat stuff on stream last week. But the way that we got this chat working is actually really, really convoluted and difficult. And what I had planned on stream wouldn't actually technically work, so I had to do a lot of it off stream after figuring out what we wanted to do. But you'll notice that if I go to the chat window, let's see what we got here. Oh boy, oh boy. Hey Chaos, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Welcome on in. Happy New Year. How's your day going? Kieran, not drinking alcohol quite yet. Still the morning over here. We'll see, we'll see. But Happy New Year. Oh, Chaos is your wife. Awesome. Well, happy, is it still New Year's on the other side of the world? Hi. Welcome in. Good having you here. Haley, you can't tell Chaos about Haley and Emily, Cozy. You're gonna get them in trouble. Right. I was gonna show off in our chat window. The links work by basically encoding all the data in the, I guess I can't really show it off from here, but we basically take all that data and we convert it into Unity links. We extract out all the item data, store it in a lookup table for all players, and then we link to that whenever we receive messages. If people are interested in that, I can go over it, but let me just scroll on through. So the code's in the VOD. Basically, yada yada yada. We send messages. We do cool things. Yay! Just serializing items into JSON, putting that in a link data tag, and then when we receive a link data tag, we convert that into like the link ID in, well, let's see, where are we at? This guy, this funky code over here. So we just strip out all the data stuff, put it in our lookup table, and then link the ID in our lookup table. Hurrah! Let's see here. First of all, music is slightly loud apparently, so let me turn that down a little bit. It is a little bit louder than I normally have it, I guess. Thanks for letting me know. But yes, welcome in, Chaos. 3 wives is kind of crazy, but kudos to you for putting up with them. How long have I been coding for? I've been coding for a very long time. About 20 to 23 years, I guess. I started really young with Visual Basic 6. I begged for a Visual Basic textbook for my 10th birthday. I got that. And then I did a lot of web dev. I did a lot of desktop applications. I did funky stuff everywhere. And I only last year, or maybe it was the year before, about a year and a half ago, I switched into game dev. So it's been fun so far. I've always wanted to make games, and when I was doing web dev, I would have a lot of like cool ideas for websites and stuff, and it was really cool to be able to just like spend a weekend and build that website and be able to show it off to people. And so it's also been very cool with the skills to build games, to like build something small over a weekend and just like be able to play it or show it off to people. I'm glad that I picked it up. Perfect now on the music. Thank you very much. Steam. Yes. Big news on that front. We are planning on having our demo out. Is it 2 weeks from today? 2 weeks from tomorrow? So midway through January. If you follow that Steam link and wishlist the game, that helps us for some reason. And also, you will get notified when the demo is out. You'll get like an email saying you can come download it. So I would recommend wishlisting it so you can play it. Also, if you're not in our Discord, let me link that real fast too. We'll obviously post about the demo in there too. And we're still figuring out how we want to run things. We might do some like challenges of like first person to craft this thing or that thing, get some sort of reward. We'll see what we do, but all that'll probably be in the Discord as well. You developed a game for your thesis. It's an amazing thing. That's cool. What was your thesis in? And also, like, is it still a major at that level? Like, uh, were you computer science or were you in another field and you did a game for a thesis that way? I'm very curious there. Um, don't say anything too interesting. Headphones are being wonky and I can't hear. Well, we can all talk about how the Anthrax Addict is an MVP in the chat and they're very cool and they'll never know that I said this. But yeah. I we've been working on this game specifically for almost a year now, I think it's been. It started out as a 2D game. We built it into a 3D game after we liked the 2D version and just wanted more. But we've also been working on some other smaller demos, which I guess I don't need to link, but you might see them in the Discord too. But we are, once we get this demo out, January 15th ish, we're going to take a step back and go polish up some of those other demos and get them on Steam as well. So, should be fun times. And if you guys see Tony Sprocket in the chat at all, he's the guy that I'm working on this with, all this. So, yeah, I think he's driving right now, so he might be in later. We'll see. But yeah, we're just going to keep working on this. This being the best game Kieran's ever seen in their entire life. So that's exciting. Christ on a cracker. I didn't say nothing, Anthrax. I guess you'll never know. But also, hello, welcome in, Happy New Year. Good to have you here. It's been a couple streams, I think. Hope you were traveling, seeing family for the holidays, etc., etc. Let's go ahead and let's take our little lad, put him back in town, because we're going to be working in at least one town today. So let me tell y'all about the plan for stream today, but let me delay it and build up this hype a little bit because I need to move my guy around. I'll show you in the game. Yeah, I did computer science, did a hide and seek with 2 different AI modules in the back to compare how it worked, and the whole thing was in Bayesian emotion recognition to see how AI NPC will respond and stuff. That's really cool. So you must have done this probably relatively recently. I know AI has kind of changed in definition over the last like 4 or 5 years or so. But that's really cool. My CS program was really focused on AI stuff. I wish I had taken more classes in it. But there were people higher up than me doing a lot of really cool stuff in like game theory and AI and building like autonomous things in games. It was very cool to watch. But yeah, let's show off. So in this game, obviously you've got your crafting system, you've got NPCs, you've got quests, you've got things to do. You can combine any 2 items you want in the game. Like, what happens if you use a needle and thread and a grape? I don't know. We're going to generate that. That's the main form of crafting. However, the main problem that you see with this is that you kind of lack like intent of what you're trying to make. So we'll see if this finishes. Apparently it's been acting up today. Might need to check server stuff. Right. Well, for example, if we wanted to combine these 2 items, scissors and a telescope, like these don't really combine in an obvious way. But there are kind of 2 ways where you can have one be like the primary thing and apply the other to it. You could have like a telescope that you apply a bunch of scissor blades to, or you could have scissors that are really, really long. Maybe they have a sight on them or something. But if you just combine them, it's kind of random which way it goes. It's kind of hard to get the specific items that you want. We got precision astro scissors, so it kind of went with that ladder, like scissors that were augmented with the telescope. What we have throughout the game is a few different workstations. For example, one is an anvil, which lets you do a couple things. You can put an item in, break it down back into its components. You can also use the smithing feature, which you unlock more templates as you level up your smithing skill. You've got different stats and skills and stuff. But this lets you kind of prescribe more intent towards what you want to craft. So if we want to make a bucket made out of bread, if you had a bucket in your inventory already and you had this bread in your inventory already and you combine those, you might get a bread bucket. You might get a bucket full of bread. You might get a hollowed out bread loaf that you can act as a bucket, etc. Lots of different like random ways that it can go. However, what this workstation does and what other workstations are trying to do is let you kind of prescribe that intent. So here you can say, I want to use bread as the material to craft this thing. So to craft a bucket, we will probably get a bread bucket or a bucket made of bread, a bread helmet, I guess, made of a piece of bread shaped like a helmet. I wonder if maybe this was linked to the helmet item still. I just rearranged all these. But the gist is basically you can use, like, maybe we take our scissors and make them into an arrow tip. We'll see what we get there. Should be like a scissor arrow tip or something versus something that's more like scissors. Yeah, we got a scissor arrow tip. So you can kind of like guess a little bit better what you're going to craft. And so that's kind of the point of all these workstations that we have. We also have a furnace. We've got some other ones out in town. We're going to be building more workstations today on stream, I think. So let me catch up on chat. I know I just rambled for a bit, but I wanted to get all that out, and then we'll see where we start. Oh, you defended it in June this year, so like 6 months ago. That's so recent. Congratulations. I assume that you did it, defended successfully. I didn't even know you do thesis for your bachelor's. That's crazy. But congratulations. That's awesome. I'd love to see, like, if you have the game somewhere. I could play it sometime. Seems fun. But yeah, that's very cool. Thank you for sharing. But yeah, basically we have a sharpening wheel set up to use as a workstation. We have a furnace that we have as a workstation currently. Excuse me, I got some hiccups. So you could like melt down grapes to apply them to a pickaxe. So again, it's like that unidirectional, like you're burning this down to apply it to this. We'll see what we get here. So we got a grape pickaxe and it used up one of our grapes. So we could then apply more grapes to it, I suppose. And we just get a grape pickaxe each time because you don't always get something new with this one. But yeah, that's kind of the gist there. We have a few workstations. I think I'll start with one that I've been meaning to craft, meaning to make. But if anybody has any suggestions for other workstations they'd like to see in the game, I'm more than happy to hear them. We'll probably make them. Some of the other ones we have planned are an oven where you can put in an item and then periodically, like every in-game hour, it'll basically cook whatever is in there. So you might put in some raw fish and then you check back in a game hour and it becomes cooked fish, and then you check back in another game hour and it's like burnt fish, and you check back in another game hour, it's ashes or whatever. So that's another way to like manipulate items. We also, let me go to another town. We've got our like mining settlement out here. Over here, I plan on having, it's a little skewed. I plan on having a tumbler for like polishing up rocks, and also a shaping table for, all these are a little skewed, for basically taking like gems, putting them in jewelry, or doing a lot of other crafting things. Basically, it's still very hand wavy. And I'm not seeing the one that I was actually going to do. Maybe it was over here. Weaving wheel. I'm looking for a crusher. We just want to crush things. Wonder why all these are a little bit skewed. But yeah, we can do whatever really. Like the visuals for the game, looks very neat. Thank you. We've been working very. It started very plain. Didn't look the greatest. And then we did a trailer for the game and put up a Steam page, and it looked very, very bland. So the last several months we've been working really hard on the visuals and making things look a little bit nicer, and just having a lot of different effects and places to explore. So hopefully we'll have a better trailer soon, and I appreciate you saying that. Thank you. We've been working very hard on it. But I think the best thing is probably just to jump into what we are gonna build, I guess. So we can either start with, say, like the sharpening wheel, which would kind of take the cooking approach of, like I said, that cooks something every hour. You could have something just get sharpened, like you put in a stick and you get a pointy stick or something like that. I think that's a little bit boring, so we might start with something a little bit harder. I'm just not sure where we want to put a giant like crusher in town. Maybe next to the giant boulders. We also have like a, let's see, we've got a mining area up here. Maybe that's a good spot for it. So I'll go ahead and I'll generate the model for it later, but for now, what we can do is just use a 3D cube for our placeholder, because we're going to be working on like the logic and stuff for it first. Let's make this guy nice and big. That's going to be our crusher. A mill on the river. That's where medieval people actually crushed all their crap. All right. I mean, that makes sense. Let's take this guy. We've got this river. Maybe we can move some trees out of the way, put it over here. Let's see. Anywhere else that makes more sense? We could put it like over in this area. Could put it in the backyard here, carve out like an area, a work area. I think what we'll do, let's move some of these trees out of the way. Let's put it up by the river. And maybe when I generate the model, we can get something that looks a little bit more integrated with the water. But for now, I'll just stick it next to the water. So we got this guy. Oh, Karen, you're excited for the cats. They were actually the first wildlife that we added in the game. I was building the NPC brains a while back, which, for people who weren't here, basically they have an AI model, like basically like ChatGPT in their head that runs constantly, and they are constantly firing out lasers all around them to get a list of everything that's near them, and then all of that plus some extra context gets passed off to basically ChatGPT in their brain, and it constantly says like, what do you want to be doing right now? And they can choose basically, oh, I want to walk across town, I want to go talk to this other NPC, I want to talk to the player, I want to look at this object, I want to interact with something, harvest some resources, etc. And they form memories as they do that, which feeds back into them deciding what to do next. It's a big old loop, and very complicated for the sentient NPCs, or the intelligent NPCs. But we also built something very primitive and similar for cats, which just lets them choose random things instead of having that AI in the loop. And all the cats do is just run around and look at stuff and just run around. They chase each other. It's cute. But I'll show that off in a minute, I guess, if I'm back over in the other town. What's the best way to get out of that box in that game of yours? You mean the box of get out of box? Do you mean like breaking out of the box and breaking things? Because that's what I'm most excited to see people do. You might have to tell me when the demo's out. We've got some safeguards in place for the things that you can craft, but I mean, it's all AI, so obviously if you can break stuff, it'll still work. So that'll be really exciting. Let's take this guy. Let's bring it out somewhere where we can organize it later. So this is going to be our crusher. What do the cats drop? You know, I think I'll go back over there real fast. Like all other objects in the game, I don't think I've mentioned, you can use any item on any object in the game and it does more AI stuff. So you can like use a fishing rod on a tree and it'll catch leaves or squirrels or whatever. We have, where do these cats go? You can harvest from the animals as well. However, okay, yeah, you can. So they are just listed as a cat. So there's some stuff to be done there. But if you use your hands on a cat, I think most of the time it just picks up the cat. And we have some flags and stuff that we can do, like limited harvest. So with deers, you can harvest like 5 times before they disappear. You usually get deer hide or something. But there's some extra stuff that we want to do later, with just like an extra chain on all the AI stuff to say like, hey, you harvested this item from this object. Should we change the object? So for example, if you harvest from a cat and you get a scared cat, it should probably remove this cat from the world because that cat exists in your inventory. Right now it doesn't, and it isn't like smart enough to know if it should or not. Or like other things, if you were to use a tinderbox on a tree or something. That's a more complicated example where you might not necessarily want to like remove the tree from the world, but you might apply an effect to it or do something else. So light it on fire or something like that. We haven't quite built that in yet, but that's probably after the demo. This is up in the air. Huge sword in the distance. Absolutely, yes. And there's a counterpart, a much smaller sword on the other side of the world. I wonder what it could all mean. I guess there's only one way to find out, and it's probably to ask all these people. If you use a cat on a girl, you will get a cat girl, right? Probably. Except that would require you to treat women like objects first. Maybe I should not add that in the game. But if you manage to craft both a cat and a girl, perhaps you'll let me know. What do you get? I mean, I guess we can find out too. Where'd our player go? Here. Somewhere around here. We've got dropped item. Stick one of those in. Give it a cat. Stick one of those in. Give it a girl. And those will try and look up when the game starts to see if we have any items with that name. And I'm pretty sure if they don't find an item that with that name, they will create one. So when you pick it up, you'll get that item. We will double check that when we're in the game next. But let's go ahead and take those and our player, and let's bring it over to our crusher that we're working on. And you know what? I'll go in and I'll test it now. We'll see if we'll get you your cat girl, Kieran. But I'm pretty sure she's already in chat. Halle Berry. Maybe you will. We'll find out. I am a little concerned that we are getting a bunch of API errors this morning. We will see if things are breaking. I wonder if somebody is using it pretty heavily. Let's see here. Bruh, I'm busy. I made it so NPCs can talk to you, which is something I never see in games, and so often it's so annoying, but they have something interesting to say, so I'm like, I might as well. Okay, so we didn't get those items. Maybe it didn't. Oh yeah, it doesn't create them. I turned that off. Create new item from name. Well, maybe. Oh, you know what? It probably just, when we start in the middle of town, when we load in the middle of town, all those NPCs get initialized at the same time. We probably just need to wait a minute and get things times to initialize. But in the meantime, let's go in. Let's craft some stuff, I guess. Maybe instead of them suddenly starting a conversation, they go, "Hey, you got a second?" And a noticeable but easily ignored prompt on screen. That's a good idea. Yeah, I want to get them like yelling things just in general, because it's a little bit more immersive to see like speech bubbles and things. But yeah, this is a little bit jarring every time. Sure. Interpret the gestures. I don't see any errors yet. I'm hoping the items are going to generate fine. Surely it doesn't take this long, but did I write that this guy can't use words? Yeah, okay. So each NPC also has a persona that we've given them, like a description of how they act, how they talk. And this guy cannot talk, so he does things. Points to the sky, tracing a path with his finger. Alright, that's good to know, Brother Solus. Let's see. I'm wanting to just give a little bit of extra time. Let's see what's all's going on. Because if they don't generate, I might have turned it off, but we can check it out another time. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. We are gonna, let's get this crusher working. Let's see. Like when Animal Crossing villagers run up to you and you can choose to engage or not. That's a good idea. Yes, yes, yes. I will do that. Also, thank you for the hydrate, Kieran. I refilled my water right before the stream, and I've only drank coffee since then. Now I'm imagining this buff-ass monk doing Animal Crossing cutesy, cartoony gestures. Yes, I think one of the fun things, like, the fun things that... One thing that will be really fun to do is the AI-generated animations for NPCs. It's, like, very cutting-edge tech right now. It only barely works, and so we don't really want to put it in right now when it's so janky. But very, very soon, like Unity just released a new feature that lets you take a model and describe what they want to do. So you can say like do a backflip and it'll rig that model up to do a backflip, or it'll use the rigging on the model and make it do a backflip. So we can very easily, obviously, generate some text describing an animation. For example, like what we just did in that chat of he points to the sky and he did something else, but he points to the sky is enough to generate a proper animation from that. So when we already have all the NPCs making their own decisions and doing things, I think that is going to be a really fun addition. Especially, I'll probably make it in chats where when you talk to them, it'll like zoom in the camera, frame you guys a little bit better, put you on one side of the screen, him on the other. So the animations will be a lot more highlighted. But since we have everyone just T-posing right now, we don't necessarily want to make those scenes so cinematic and just show off nothing. But little fun fact for anybody doing game dev or wanting to do game dev, there's a site called Mixamo. Is that not mixamo.com? Sure. And it basically takes your models and has a huge library of animations that you can make them do for like any model. So there's some ridiculous ones in there, and we're going to grab a whole bunch of these and rig up all the NPCs to be able to say in the same chain that they have right now of like, what do I want to do? We can do a little offshoot chain to say like what animation is associated with this. So make them, these aren't as ridiculous as what I was expecting. Let's get some dance ones. There we go. We'll make our buff monk guy do this. But yeah, there'll be some fun stuff to do there for sure. But I am so bad at getting distracted. Let's make a small little bit of progress here. Let's go find our workstations panel here. Let's copy over maybe our furnace and call this the crusher window. Let's open that up. Let's get it start to stylize things. And we'll get started on this. It can be the you wanna chat dance. I think it should. I think they should do absolutely something ridiculous to get your attention. Because why wouldn't you want to talk to somebody who comes over and just starts like doing the Macarena at you? Or an elaborate birds mating dance. You're going to talk to that NPC. Alright, so we've got our crusher. I will go ahead and generate us a background another time. But for the time being, let's maybe just clear it out with something else. That is fine. You know what? We have our... That'll do for now. Alrighty. So the crusher. What we want it to do is basically let a player stick an item in and then slide a granularity slider. Maybe Cozy can help with this. I know you probably have these sliders for like grinding beans or something. I don't know what the settings would be. But let me throw in a slider real quick so we can kind of visualize what we're looking at. And then we want it to be maybe bottom to top. And then let's say that. I'll describe things in a second, but okay, window background's getting a little distracting. Let's do this for now. So we want to put in an item and then be able to say like, do we want to crush this into like, just break it in half? Do we want to crush it down to like rock size pieces? Do we want to crush it into dust? Do we want to just completely pulverize it? And that'll be basically an input to the LLM that powers this of like how much do we want to break down this item, but it gives the player the ability to like make that choice versus it just crushing to a random coarseness. So if we do something like this where we have min value and max value of like 4, so we've got a couple different steps that we can crush it. We can make this like a power meter of like how much power to put in. More power is crushing it into finer dust. This game is an SCP-914 simulator. I can never turn down a good SCP link. Let's see what that one is. Dun dun dun. Yes, yes, yes. Large clockwork device weighing several tons. Very complicated. Very complex. Wow. It just is very, very complicated. Words rough, coarse, 1-to-1, fine, and very fine are positioned at points around the knob. I mean, we could steal those. Go back to your work, you fool. Oh, I'll be back in a second. I mean, we could just make this in the game. What does each setting do? Refine the object. Yeah, it's basically this is what we're building. No energy's lost. I'm researching for my game, you silly goose. Yeah, I mean, we actually want to give like examples to the LLM of inputs and outputs of what we want. And so we might just take some of this, but we'll go back to the game for now. So we want some text real fast describing our different slider levels. So let's add some of these in. Let's say information container, slider level labels. I want to check if it's allowed, by the way. Yeah, I'm not actually going to copy and paste it. I'm just using them as examples. But like a kilogram of steel with a setting of fine becoming carpet tacks versus screws versus chunks, basically. But yes, good call out there. Let's see here. So these were really good. So rough, coarse, 1-to-1, fine, and very fine. We probably don't want all of these. Like 1-to-1 doesn't make a lot of sense for crushing something. But we could definitely have like rough, coarse, fine, and very fine. Or like rough, coarse, fine, and dust. But let's just get some pieces around. So let's say dust. I'll rename all these later. Pebbles. Rough. And then just like break in half. Very placeholdery names, but for now we will see how things work and we'll come back and polish stuff. And we'll make this stylized more as like a power meter of like how much power you want to put in. We have the furnace that I'm planning to have players also need to put in items as like fuel. And then we'll detect like how much fuel, say a log gives versus if you put in like a rock or something. We could do something similar here where you need to put in items that would provide like power or electricity or something in order to get to these higher level crushing settings. But we don't necessarily need to do all those restrictions now or for the demo. Demo is really for like just playing with all the crafting systems and seeing what you can make and having fun with it versus being a full game. But let's see here. So let's say crush an item down to smaller and smaller pieces. Just a little description of what this workstation does. Let's get our action button. We can probably do a different name here. Let's just take our crafting thing. Sure. And what do we need to do next? I think we can just rig it up to work. So let's find our prompts directory for our what we should do before I forget, we need to unpack this prefab so we're not actually modifying the furnace window. Let's make sure that we didn't. I don't think I applied any changes. Yeah. Cool. So let's build our prompt now. So we're going to see where we store that. It's going to be systems. I need to reorganize this sometime. Entities. Interactable objects, maybe? Probably need a workstations folder in here to be more specific, but let's go ahead and start on our prompt. So we create a Chromagolum text prompt. Crusher. Just say workstation crusher. All right, time for the fun ASMR part of the stream where I just point my mic at my keyboard and think really hard about what I want to type while I type it. See you in a minute. we're back. This will probably be fine. We might change it. But with all these prompts, I go ahead and give some system message instructions of what the prompt is doing. Usually very focused on this is your input, this is your output. Specify the format of the output is very important so they don't add or remove like other things. Excuse me. And then I always like to give a few example inputs and outputs, which is again kind of reinforces that structure of the output, but also sets the tone and like the vibe of the types of descriptions you would want, the like what rough means even, just some other stuff, and then followed up with just only do what you're told, etc. So with this, we can go ahead and run some examples. If anybody wants to throw some random items in the chat, I can simulate crushing them here. We can see what we can get, but I will do a few. We'll say like item, microwave, power, dust. And these are our powers here. So if we crush a microwave to dust, we get microwave dust, a heap of fine dust from what was once a microwave. Very boring, but it works. What if we break in half a microwave? We get a broken microwave. It's split cleanly down the middle, but it's not functional anymore. What if we do rough crushing on a microwave? Microwave pieces, jumbled pieces of what was once a functioning microwave. Ta-da, it works. So basically this is what we're going to do to power this window, and we just detect what setting this is at, move this text over in here, and then get our item name of whatever's in the slot. And then when we get this out, we go through all the normal process of generating a new item in the game, giving it stats and affixes and all that stuff, and then we will output it, I guess, to the player's inventory directly. Or I guess we can just put it in this slot to be taken out. Yeah, we can do that. But I'm also curious what happens if we try and crush the ocean. We get salt water. Okay. Sure. What happens if we crush salt water? Because the whole point of this game is to let you do just ridiculous things that you think is going to break the game, but doesn't actually break the game. So we crush salt water into salty water globules. Cool, cool, cool. What if we crush those down? Salty water chunks. Okay. And we crush those down into more salty water chunks, so that's as far down you can crush it. Unless maybe we pump that power up to dust. Now we get salty dust. Perfect. Sounds delicious. And then, you know, if we want to crush... What's a thing to crush? Clouds into dust? Sure, we get cloud dust. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. The whole point of workstations is to kind of give the player the ability to predict what they're going to get out of this random crafting. So, as opposed to the alchemy that they do in their inventory where they're like, oh, what am I going to get? They should be like, I want cloud dust, so I'm going to take this cloud item to the crusher and crush it into cloud dust and get it without that randomness. So let's get this working. We've got our prompt now. So what we need to do is go over to our crusher window. Let's go ahead and create a new crusher window manager for all the code for this. Let's clean up our IDE a little bit. And we'll need to do a little bit extra to store these outputs somewhere so it's not different every time you do it. We want to make sure that the first time you do it, it is a little bit of random but then you know what you'll get every time. So if you come back with cloud items later, you'll always get the same things. So we will do that in here. But first of all, let's go ahead and rig this all up to actually work. So we've got our references that we need to set up. We've got our public item slot manager, I think, inventory slot manager, item to crush, or crusher item slot will work. We have our public slider, power slider. We have our, is there anything else we need? Not really. We want to implement, I mean, we could do dragging in the item to the whole window, sets it in the slot, but I think you can just put it in the slot. Excuse me. So it should be pretty simple, I think. Oh, the other thing is a public prompt crusher logic. Cool. So we'll have our public do crush, execute crushing. We'll rename this later. That's so bad. But that's what's going to be rigged to our button. So when you press this button, it will call this function. Let's get this hooked up before I forget, and we'll also set these references. In that function, we're going to grab the item name, we're going to grab the slider setting, and then we will put that in the prompt, run the prompt, put that item we get back in the slot. So let's take our action button here. It will run crusher window dot execute crusher. And then we also need crusher item slot is here. Power slider. I'm blind. Slider. Oh, it's in here. And our logic, which is the prompt we just wrote. And cool. So here, let's grab our, let's first say you're not going to crush anything if there's no item in the slot. So if crusher item slot, we've got a nicer function for that, is empty, has item. Surely it has helper for that. Get item is null. I feel like I wrote a, maybe I didn't. All right. Well, let's just add one real fast. We will say, oh, contains item. There we go. Cool. So if that dot contains item, if it doesn't have an item, we just return without doing anything. But now we know it does have an item, so we can say string item, or yeah, we'll just grab the whole item. Get that item, and then we can say the power slider is that. So we'll do a switch on that to convert it to the string. Could do like a map to look it up, but we'll just do that real fast. We'll say string power level is blank, case, or switch power, case 0, case 1, 2, cool. And our things were 0 is break in half, rough, and we can change these really easily too. We just need to actually just change the text. Dust, cool. Now we have our prompt, and that's going to be our crusher logic dot fill prompt with replacement with these. don't think that's our syntax that we want to use. How are we doing this elsewhere? Yeah, that looks better. So now the things that we change are, instead of hard coding in an item here, we just give it a token of item name and a token of power level, and then we can replace these with item name, item.item name, and power level. With our power level we just set. And so that will go ahead and replace this prompt with our actual data, and then we can run it and get our response back. So we'll say public void on item crushed, which gives us string new item data. That's what we get back from the LLM, because it's going to output something like this. And I might want to double check how we're doing it elsewhere, but we can say start coroutine of filled out prompt generation coroutine, and then our callback of when it's done is on item crushed. So that runs this prompt. When it gets a response, it calls item crushed with that response. So let's go look at how we've got our item generation service somewhere. Let's see how we're using it elsewhere, because I want to make sure we're using it the same way. Item creation service, that's what it's called. Create new item from name is probably what we'll use, because we can, I guess we don't even need to generate the description here. We can literally just output an item name and use the same flow here. That might be nicer for just standardizing things. So, makes things a little bit easier. Let's go ahead and just say one item name. Steel dust. Example output. Oak log chunks. So let's run this once with just making sure it still works. We will crush obsidian stone into pebbles. Obsidian pebbles. Sure. Cool. So now we get back new item name. And then what we can do is this guy with a callback again. So we can have public void on new item created. I think it returns a new item. Let's double check that. Yeah, it gives an item. Cool, cool, cool. So now all we're doing here is saying item creation service dot gen dot instance dot create item from name new item name on new item created. That is correct, except for if we were to crush an item into a new item that already exists. So we can go ahead and say item potential item is equal to item database dot instance dot find item new item name. So if an item already exists, that will return it. So we can say if potential item is not equal to null or is null, then we're going to create a new one, follow that flow that we just built. If we already have an item, we can go ahead and just put it in the slot and be done. So put the new item in the slot. And that's just going to be set item, I think, or set item data. Yeah. And so here, when we get our new item, it's just going to be the same of set item data of that. So I think just thinking as a developer, it might make sense to just call this instead of duplicating the code for now. Because then we can do some of this other stuff that we need to do, like public bool is currently crushing false. When we start getting flags like this, we set it true up here, but then we would need to like set it false here and also down here. We can just have everything in one spot if we send the flow all through the same functions. So this should now work, I think. Is there anything that I'm missing here? I don't think so. Assuming item creation service is standalone enough, assuming I built it well enough to just like be used and forgotten, I guess we can try it out. Let's make sure that this slider is bottom to top, not top to bottom. So the most power is dust. Sure, that matches. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, max value of 3. Right. Now they match. Okay. And then lastly, we want the workstation that we built, the 3D box, that needs to have a generic interactable panel trigger pointing at our new crusher window to toggle. And crusher is a mining scale, I think it is. So we give it that icon. We'll also want to grab the like floating icon above it, but we'll make sure it works. We just want to call it a crusher. Let's set the verb to crush. And do we want to also show the inventory window? We do, because you're going to be dragging items in. So it should work now. Let's test it. Let's get rid of these dropped items we tested with earlier. Cool. So when we touch this, it should open that panel. This window should start closed. Doesn't need to initialize anything. The prompt should be good. We got our tokens in. Let's give it a shot, I guess. Hopefully it works, because hopefully it's pretty easy to add workstations like this. I feel like the hardest part is just deciding what kinds of workstations we want and like deciding what the logic should be. So let's see if this works. This is the crusher for crushing your items into dust and other things. I was in his way. All right, so we got crush at the crusher. Tooltip works for it. We didn't set some reference. Oh, yeah. This needs to inherit from a UI window, so we can open and close it and things. All right. Quick little fix. Let's try this again. Let's see if this works. And we can start thinking about what workstation we want to do next. Anything else that we'd want to like manipulate our items with. Let's load that in. I think I have a list of other workstations I could add in somewhere. I'm not sure where. Let's see if this works. Thanks for sticking around, guys. Hope you guys are having fun. Hope you guys are also hydrating and having a good new year. Alrighty. So, if we run over to the crusher, cool, it opens up the panel as we would hope and expect. So if we want to crush some bread, if we want to break our bread in half, we stick our bread in, we set the power level to break in half, we press this, and we hope and pray. We broke something. Please provide the name of the item you want to create, which makes me think our tokens aren't being substituted in correctly. Here. Oh, right. Wait. Create new item from name. Item name. Interesting. Let's trace through this a little bit because we have the response we got from one of our prompts is, could you please provide the name of the item you want to create? Which makes me think that one of these prompts didn't include the item name, either the one we just built or one layer down in the item creation service. So we will hunt it down and fix it. These are all activities from NPC brains. Kind of hard to see what we're working with. So what we will do instead, let's go ahead and attach this to Unity. Let's go to our crusher window, set a breakpoint here, here, and here. So we should get dumped over. When we've fully attached, we'll be able to load back in. But we can break our bread in half again, which should immediately dump us here, so we can go in, make sure we're getting the correct item, correct power level. We can see what the actual prompt is before we run it, and then we'll kick it off to work, and then when it's done, we will see the response as well. So here, let's break this in half. Why did we not get dumped over to Visual Studio? Maybe it just takes a second. Time to hydrate some more. Time to choke on my coffee, dang. Nobody told me I forgot to turn on lights before the stream. Roll. Alrighty. Is this... Okay, we did finally get dumped over. Alright. So our crusher slot is set correctly. Let's go ahead and jump through. So our item is our bread. That is correct. Thank you for the hydrate, Cozy. I am... should always be drinking more water. Alright, so our power level is indeed break in half. That is correct. Our filled out prompt. Let's see what the system message looks like. That's correct. Wait a second. That's not correct. Right, it's using this prompt, not our prompt. Alright, well that's an easy fix. Let's exit out of this. We need to actually use our crusher logic instead of the NPC's internal decision-making prompt. Crusher logic. It's your bad for turning off my office light last night. Yeah, whoops. I think it's okay. Thank you for turning off the light last night if I forgot it. All right, let's continue on through so we can exit out of this. We should have the correct prompt now. And with that, we shouldn't even need to attach to Unity. So I'm going to just cross my fingers and believe that this will work. And then we will crush everything in our inventory as much as we can. When it loads. Still stopping debugging. I think we can terminate those processes. I feel like every time I attach to Unity, it lags a little bit and is like, what are you doing? Probably some bug in something. Alright, let's try this again. So now his serene demeanor whispers the secrets of the cosmos without uttering a single word. Thanks. I actually like this guy. He'll be fun to interact with. But we go over to our crusher now. Cool. Let's break our bread in half. Don't you dare talk to me right now. So, I'm wondering what's going to happen if we put in a whole stack of items. Yeah, it's going to consume the whole stack. But we do get bread halves. Doesn't have any stats, so we probably need to make sure that this item creation service is actually going through and maybe we need to actually be completing the details. It probably doesn't go all the way through. But we can crush things now. That's cool. So we could take our apple and crush it into apple pebbles, maybe. Smashed apple pieces. We take the apple pieces, we smash those again, and we see what we get. Apple chunks. Yeah, we definitely need to do the rest of the chain on the item stats. And maybe we could consider like this sort of animation here, but maybe something more crushy related. Put a geode in there, you know? We've got a pickaxe. Let's see if we can get something stony. Fruit salad. You know what? We actually have rock samples up in the mining area. Pile of dirt isn't going to cut it. Let's go see what the rock samples give when we crush them up. Oh, right. I'm pretty sure that's them there. So I haven't tested our parkour course in a while, but I just redid all the jump logic, so we'll see if we can actually get there. Oh, you can just walk up this rock? Oops. Alright. Okay, we're getting there. There should be an NPC. Oh, she's hiding. Okay. Let's see. This way, yep. And then I think we jump there. Run up here. Yay, parkour. And I guess we could use our pickaxe on some gold shard veins, get some other stuff to crush down, get some gold dust, I suppose. Gold shards. Anything else we might... Let's use a lantern on one of those, maybe. A crucible. A chisel. Get some cool stuff. Mixed signals. Uh-oh. I'll watch that in a second. Gold shard vein with a lantern. Don't know what you get there. Gold shard. Okay. Crucible. Just getting a couple things we can crush. Smelted gold fragments. Ooh, okay. More gold shards. Cool. Let's use our fists on one. And then I'm hoping this is the... what we came up here for, but at least the gold shards will be nice. Gold dust. All right, cool. You know what? Let's use telescope. See what we get with that too. Why not? Golden visions. Okay. Rare and valuable insights. Etched in gold. All right, this is rock samples. Okay, cool. Those are basically like geodes, but maybe we should actually name them geodes. Let's see. So we could go up further. There's a few more things we could get up there, but I think well, you know what? We just made the crusher. We can go ahead and get some things, enjoy ourselves a little bit. Gotta remember how to get up there. I'm pretty sure we jump from here to here, run around and jump there. Okay. We're doing great. Bet we can jump there maybe. A little buggy, but that worked. Alright. Let's get some crystal prisms too. You didn't know this was a parkour game. Mining is level 2. Hurrah! Oh, none of these give me harvest speed. Crystal shards. Cool. I like harvesting with the lantern. Always interesting to see what you get. We're building up a nice little collection of things to go crush. Let's put on our backpack. Get more inventory slots. Melted crystal shard. Cool. I guess we could... Tool belt? Oh no, where'd our items go? Well that sure seems like a bug. Pretty sure our items are still there, they just need to be redrawn. So we'll do this real fast and note that down as a bug to fix. Alright, cool. Crush our unicorn tier. Sure. Alright, so anything else up here we might want to collect? We can find out what that is. Or we could just overshoot everything and jump on down. What's this? Black rock. I don't even remember placing these. Alright. Let's get some mining. Can you go pee, Kieran? If you've been a good boy, you may go pee. You haven't peed since last year. Alright, that joke allows it. Good joke, you may pee. Oh no, I hope we didn't get stuck. Surely we can get out of here. Oh no, we're in the rock. Oh no, we collected all these things. Okay, we're out. How do we get out of here though? Things are not looking up. I do love those jokes. Okay. We are fighting for our lives. I just redid jumping and I can't believe I've done this. Let's see. The best way to get out of here. We do have an unstuck button, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to work here. We can just... Okay, let's see if we got a little bit of room to get somewhere else maybe. Alright, we're out of here. Let's get out of here before we get stuck again. Alright, we got things to crush. I am a rock. I am an island. You are indeed. All right, things to crush. We got melted crystal shards. Oh. All right, we need to, one thing of note. When we close this window, on window close or whatever it is, we should put that item back in our inventory. Callback on window hide. Don't want to save this because it'll recompile and mess up our references, but melted crystal shard, let's break it in half. Oh right, it's going to consume the whole stack. We get fragments. Okay, let's turn them to dust. So we need to either only allow one, like a stack size of one in this slot at a time, or just consume one and put the new item in your inventory. Probably that one, because it's nice to be able to just repeatedly press the button and not have to keep dragging in new items, especially if it was like you had 12 of these and you wanted to convert them all to dust. So let's do that. We've got that, the stack size problem. We've got the extra logic on adding more details to the item that we're creating. And we've got, when you close the window, we want to put this item back in your inventory. And I guess the close button also. We'll do all four of those. All right, easy peas. So before I forget, close button, stack size, and I've already forgotten what did I just say what the fourth thing was. Close button, stack size. That's item in inventory. I literally just said it. I have no idea what I just said. All right. I'm sure it'll pop back up. That's fine. All right, first thing, let's go over to this window. Our exit button should actually just call Crusher Window Manager hide window. Cool. Let's actually make it call toggle window. We know it'll be open. Cool, so that's the close button. Let's get our, put them back in their inventory when you close the window. Actually that is what this is, but maybe I thought it was for and it was actually just, I said the same thing twice, but that's what we'll do now. That's gonna be private override, or override? Callback on window show. What the heck is the syntax? I've totally forgotten. All right, I'll go look elsewhere. Oh, on window hide. Oh, third. Right. Cannot be private. Yes, that's fine too. Public that. So we say if there is an item in the crusher's inventory slot, put it back in the player's inventory. Cool. If it contains an item, we get the item. .instance.inventory. Let's go look at where our inventory is stored. Storage, equipment, alchemy inventory. I don't think it's alchemy inventory. Where is our inventory? Player persona.inventory, that's what it is. Player persona.inventory, because we attached inventories to the personas, so all the NPCs can have inventories as well. Add item, whatever the stack size amount, crusher item slot stack size dot amount. It's been a while since I've worked in this code. What is our stack size? Get stack size, sure, that'll do it. Okay, and then we clear out the slot with clear held item. Sure, so that grabs our item, puts it back in the player's inventory, and clears the item. So let's go ahead and just, we don't need all these references. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Cool. And then, so the last thing that we want to do, rather than just setting the item data for what we get as a response to crushing an item, we want to add that item to the player's inventory and just consume one of whatever is in the slot. So we'll say consume one of items in the slot, crusher slot, add the new item to the player inventory. So that's going to be very similar to what we just made here. And here we do exactly that, yes. Cool, so that fixes 3 bugs. I think there might have been 4, but it might have been me saying 3 plus 1, the same thing twice. Oh yes, the 4th thing was that items don't have stats. So we have the technology to give them stats. If we go look at the item creation service, the items that we have generated have all of this stuff already. We just need to give them like affixes and things. So we can call this, and we need another callback of polyvoid on new item filled out item, new item. That's where all this logic we just wrote is probably going to live, but first we need to say item creation service dot instance dot generate completed item details for this new item, and then we call on new item filled out. Cool. So there's actually another step that we need to have done. So now the full life cycle of the crusher is you put an item in, you select a power level, that goes to the crusher logic prompt, which gives you an item name out of what that item will crush into at that power level. We use that item name to create a new item, which has name, description, image, weight, value, etc. And then when we get that new item, we fill out the rest of the stuff that goes on items like affixes and things. I'm realizing that we don't necessarily want to do that if the item that we create already exists. So when I put everything through this one method earlier, we don't actually want to do that. So here, when the item already exists, if we crush rocks down to sand and sand already exists as an item, we don't want to add new stats to sand. We just want to jump directly to a filled out item on new item filled out. Versus here, we do want to send it through that process to create a new item, add stats, etc. Items that exist can jump to the end. All right, so now everything should theoretically work. Let's go ahead and jump over to where we add some default items to the player's inventory. And we can throw in geode, which I don't think maps to an item. We'll see if it just generates it. I think it will. It probably just won't have an image or a description. Maybe. Might just break. But we can at least test all the 4 things that we just needed to fix. All right. Let's see. Do we have geodes somewhere in our inventory? Maybe not. Maybe just didn't add it. I did add a bunch of stuff to cut down on all those generations right when the game starts. I don't think we have geodes anywhere. That's okay. Let's take our pickaxe. Let's just mine some rocks. Those guys don't have colliders. Huh. I'll need to add those. Let's mossy boulder, sure. Let's just get some stuff to break real fast. Mossy stone, perfect. Nice and fast too. We're getting 2 per mine? Huh. Do we have... Oh, harvest yield of 1. That needs to start at 0. Let me... Colliders on rocks, set harvest yield to 0. Okay, we'll fix those real fast too. But we can walk over to our crusher. We've got mossy stone. We can break 1 of them in half. Should add to our inventory. And we should have 31 here, if it works. Might take a second because we're doing a lot more on the item now. It is... Yeah, we still need to do a lot of the error handling and like retry logic, mostly. Let's try this once more. Oh, well that was instant. Huh. Well, that's very concerning. Okay. Yeah, we definitely need to look into that server stuff soon. But we got mossy stone halves, which should continue on. We got this. Potential item is going to be null, so it'll go to this, which should create something on new item created. We fill it out. Okay. Let's add some logging. Yeah, definitely some weirdness there. Something's broken. I wonder, are either of these supposed to be coroutines? Generate completed item details. But I don't think this is a coroutine. It just returns a coroutine. Oh. It is a coroutine too. Okay. So we'll just do that. So here, where do we do this? Start coroutine of that. Right? Maybe not. Let's go look at that again. If it is... Yeah, I don't think we need to actually start a coroutine. Maybe it was just the weird errors that we saw earlier messing stuff up. Because it starts its own coroutine and returns that coroutine. Okay. Let's just give this another shot. So much AI happens right when you start the game. Alrighty. So we break a whetstone in half. Does that work? Start with a stack of 3. It's definitely doing stuff. Probably shouldn't open NPC dialogue when you're doing other things, for sure. Adding to player inventory. Okay, so it creates the item completely. But this didn't run and this didn't run, interestingly. Unless it... Oh, it did. We just aren't redrawing the UI. I see. So it probably worked before. We get our broken whetstone. We just need to redraw both of these inventories. And that should probably be done in here. When you add an item to... Oh, right. This is any inventory. Yeah. Okay. Let's go... Let's just get the line from somewhere else. Here, and then redraw. Yep. Right. Totally forgot. And then also here, we need to crush your item slot dot redraw. Okay, so it does work. Cool. Logically, it should work, but I want to go back in and see it work. And maybe with those NPCs, we'll go ahead and if they try and open a dialogue with you and you already have some dialogue windows open, maybe they shouldn't be allowed. We'll see. Might just be fixed when I make them do the Macarena at you to get you to talk to them. And then I also, while we were here, our player has some base stats. Harvest yield. Yes, we want that to start at 0, not 1, because that's a bonus amount of stuff. And then I guess also while we're here, these rocks don't have colliders or interactables. So let's say, what kind of collider do we want to put on here? Let's just do a mesh collider, I guess. Convex, can I preview that at all? Apparently not. And generic interactable world object, and we'll say river rocks. That's what they're called. 8 seconds base, and we're golden. Let's apply that to all of those. This guy, let's do the same. Let's put a sphere collider on him. And then let's grab this, copy, paste, apply. So all those out in the world will now have them. Surely these guys, okay. Wait, I did do that to the top level. Okay, good. This guy, let's do box collider. And we'll make that a trigger so players can't really stand on it. And we will paste the same river rocks there. Apply it to all. Just making sure all these rocks on the river have we went to go mine some rocks and we couldn't interact with them. Interestingly, that one is an ancient boulder. Wonder what it has. And frog's leg. Okay, cool. Looks like all these are interactable now. Just wanted to get those in before I forgot. Wow, lots of ancient boulders. Maybe we should not apply that to everything. But, you know, it's fine. Good enough. Cool, cool, cool. All right, so those are my 2 to-do items that I jotted down while we were seeing everything break the last time we were testing this. We just fixed redrawing the inventory slots, so we should be able to go in now and see that it works. I guess we didn't end up getting our geode items. You know what, we'll go ahead and actually just make that item next time we're out of the game, because it will be nice to crush that. I think that is a nice tie-in to be able to find geodes and crush them. So let's crush our bread. Let's break it in half. Start with a stack of 3. We should get 1 here, and then that goes down to stack of 2. This doesn't have any item stats, which is potentially okay, as long as that is just a one-off. And I'm realizing we also haven't saved these recipes anywhere before, or anywhere. So each time we break it, it's going to be recomputing all this, which we want to avoid. So we can do that next and kind of finish off this workstation. It should be relatively quick, I think. If we grind bread down to dust, what do we get? Bread dust. I would love to get something with some stats. So maybe a unicorn tier starts with constitution. Let's see if it'll break down into an item that still has constitution as a stat. Does not. Okay. Interesting. Let's see. How about an apple? Pebbles. We got apple chunks. No stats. This is fine. This is fine. Let's combine something like that, which probably will have lots of stats and be equipment. So we'll see what we get from that. Utility harness, we put that in. Rough. Let's see if we can get something with some stats. I wonder if we're just not generating stats, or if the LLM is actually just saying these don't need stats because they've been broken down and crushed. Which could be fine. But that is something we will take a note of. Let's go ahead and jump out. Let's make our geode item. Let's add in the recipe saving, and then we'll test that, and we can also diagnose if items are being assigned stats or not. In fact, let's just take a quick look. Make sure we're passing the actual item reference around, because I don't think we need to be like persisting it back to the item database each time, but maybe. So here, finish item generation. I mean, we do actually need to be doing this because we are adding new items to the game. So we'll take those real fast, but I don't think we are doing anything wrong with how we're storing the item. And one other thing that we can do is also give some like mining experience whenever you use this crusher mining or crafting. Probably mining, because I think we want it assigned with like rocks and geodes and stuff. But let's say on new item created and on new item filled out, let's say add the item to the game. So that will add it to the item database, which I wonder if that could be the issue, because we might be querying that database to get more info about it later. But that'll at least also tell the player, like, hey, you discovered this item, and they'll have a list of all the items they've discovered. Otherwise, it just exists out in the world. Cool. So what we were going to do, let's go add our geode. We have a pickaxe item somewhere. That'll take us to the items directory. So a geode can be material. Seems reasonable. Create elixir emporium item geode. Item name geode. Let's generate an image for it of just a G, I guess. Geode. Description. I don't like that image too much. We can just kind of cycle through, see what we get. That's fine. Let's do a couple more. We'll see. Thank you, Cozy. I was just reaching for my coffee. And I have not actually heard any of the music today, so let me join y'all. Oh. I have my own stream playing in my ears. I'm glad that wasn't double the whole time. Alright. Okay. Stardew Valley Overture. Nice. That's a good geode image. Let's say reveals a hidden trove of treasure and secrets. So we specifically have this description in the item. We want to kind of hint at like there's something inside, because that description is passed through to the AI in the crusher when we serialize the item to be put in. Or I guess actually it's not the way we built the prompt, but we can do that. That would be a way for us to influence like what sorts of items you get out. All right, we now have geodes. Let's go ahead and go up to our item database. Add the geode in at the start of the game, so when we try and add it to the inventory, there's an item that it can find. And now we're going to work on storing the recipes, which should be nice and easy for now. It gets harder when we need to like do save games and stuff, but we don't have any of that in the demo. Right, for now we can just do it all in memory. So we want public dictionary of item, well, a tuple of item and int mapped to an item crusher lookup table. Easy peas. So this is going to be a dictionary where the key is the item we're crushing and the power level we crush it at, and the value is the item we get out. So whenever we are executing the crusher, what we can do is say if crusher lookup table contains a key with this item and this power already, we know what item we get out already, so we get to skip all the AI, and that's how we make sure we get the same item every time. And then if not, then we'll do all the stuff that we've already built. Hey Spitz, welcome on in. How's it going? Happy New Year. How's it going? How's your day going? We are working on a new workstation in our crafting RPG, the Crusher. We just got it working where you can go collect items out in the world and crush them down at different levels of coarseness. I will show it off in a second, but for now we are putting the finishing touches on it to store all those crafting recipes. So once you've done something, you'll do the same thing every time. Because all the other recipes are generated on the fly, we want to make sure that you're not just getting random items every time. Once you discover something, that's always what you get. Happy New Year to you too, man. Thank you, thank you. I worked on my game today, and I'm right now just chilling, checking out some other devs. That's awesome. 2 questions. 1, were you streaming working on your game? And 2, what's your game about? I'd love to hear about it. What? Hey, what up? Graphics already look great. Thank you so much. We've been working very hard on the graphics for the last few months. We are hoping to do a demo in January where we put it out, and we started recording our trailers and things, and it wasn't looking so great, so we pivoted a couple months ago from all the code and stuff into making it look a lot nicer. So I'm glad that it looks nice. This town specifically I really like. It's very fall themed. So we're working in here today, building new workstations. Yeah, happy to have you here. And if you do stream, that's awesome. Well, I'll give you a follow so I can check you out sometime. Thanks for being here. Would love to hear about your game as well. And thank you as well. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Let's see. Where were we at in this code? Right. So we are looking up in our table if we've already done this calculation of crushing an item at a certain power level. We can go ahead and skip to... We can get that item and skip to the end. So we will say item, resulting item is crusher lookup table, that. And let's go ahead and just move some of this real quick and say complete crusher operation with an item. So all this stuff where we consume the ingredient and put the result in the player's inventory, we can just do that here. Complete crusher operation with new item, and then that lets us save this stuff for like new items, and then we can go ahead and jump forward to this up here when we have our item. But figure out complete crusher operation does not exist. Is it because it didn't compile? Did I typo it? It's the same. Am I blind? Oh, right. Needs a return type. Alright, so cool. So now when we get our resulting item, what we can do is just say complete crusher operation with that item. And otherwise, if we don't know what an item will crush into, we can do all of this for determining what that item crushes down into. And so the last piece is just to save what we find out in the crusher lookup table. So we'll do that down here. After it's filled out, save this recipe so the player can reuse it. Is this HDRP? This is actually a Oh, I just saw your other message. This is actually the built-in renderer. I haven't actually looked at the other render pipelines. I definitely want to check out HDRP for my next project. It looks very nice, but I'm definitely not a 3D modeler or artist, so I was relying a lot on assets from the asset store for our demo here, and most of them use the built-in pipeline, the ones that I liked, so that's what we went with. I really don't know too much about the other pipelines. Do you use HDRP? I think people have very strong opinions about them. Every time I say I use the built-in, people are like, what are you doing? Spitz's game is about raiding a haunted farm with friends to steal animals for a werewolf. That's awesome. Fail to deliver enough and the werewolf eats a friend. Oh no. Okay, so like one of those, like a party horror game almost. I know those are very, very popular right now. That's fun though. How does the werewolf decide who to eat? Do the people have to choose like a player to sacrifice, or is it random, or is it based on, oh, okay, you vote it. Nice. Okay, yeah, that'd be fun. He's not in this stream, but we have another regular in the stream, a regular human, and he's working on a kind of a similar kind of 4-player-ish horror game where you're going out with friends and collecting some resources. Maybe you'll see him in another stream, but he's a big horror guy. I bet he would love to hear about your game and probably play it as well. But that's super cool. And I assume you stream the development too. Maybe I can catch one of your streams one of these days. When you pick lock the door and fail, you'll probably get voted out. So if you do the game poorly, your friends are going to throw you under the bus. Rip. I forgot what I was doing. I think it was, yes. Crusher lookup table. We add our new key. Not this. Oh, right. We do need to get the item in the crusher slot before we change it. Yeah, that makes sense. And then power level value results in new item. Add the new item to the player inventory and consume the ingredient. Cool. So I think this will work if I understand how tuples work as keys in dictionaries, hopefully. Let's give it a shot. Is that Human? Yeah, Human is who I was talking about. The other horror guy who would probably play Spitz's game. It's my first game, but I've been coding for some time. Oh, nice. Are you new to game development, or is it more just like the first game you're actually finishing? Because I know you're actually going to finish it, right? I'm kind of in a similar boat of I've been coding for a very long time, but I mean, this game is probably the biggest game that I've made. I've put a few like small games out and released them, but this is definitely the largest, to the point where like most of the issues we have are stemming from just like not knowing how to deal with worlds this big or like code this complex. Lots of stuff to learn. New to developing games. You did make a sports simulator game in 2021. It was out on the App Store, but I took it down. Oh, text-based. Nice. I'm not super familiar with sports simulator games, but I know people go gaga for them. Actually, the co-founder of the studio that is making this game with me, Tony Sprocket, I don't think he's in the stream right now. He's in Discord, but he loves his sports simulator games. He plays like a ton of them on like every platform, but he also like has made some as well. So he'd be a fun one. I think let me link the Discord just in case you're interested, but he'd probably love to hear about that as well. But yeah, that's really cool. I love simulator games. They're so fun. But let's check out whether this works. BRB, no worries. Oh, we need to exclude ourselves from the raycasts to move. All right, so what did we actually do? Right, we hopefully have the recipes being saved. So if we were to break grapes down to pebbles, we should get, wait. Crusher, oh, I didn't initialize it. Okay. Fine, we'll go back in. But what we'll do is we'll go in, find something in our inventory that has a big stack, we'll crush it, and make sure that we get the same item each time we crush it at each power level. So actually the geodes we just created and added to the player inventory, I think we had a stack of like 8, so that's probably a perfect one to test with. So let's just go in and test that. And for anybody else joining in, my name's Andrew. This is Elixir Emporium. It's a big old crafting RPG. Gist of the game is you can do a lot of stuff that you can't do in other games. You can combine any 2 items in the game. It uses alchemy in the game, which actually uses a bunch of like AI stuff under the hood to let you combine items without having recipes in the game. So like tongs and an apple might give you like apple tongs or something. That's a terrible example, but you can do it. You can also use any item on any object in the world. I guess we got our metallic apple. So that's a great example. It's a tool. We can throw that on our tool belt and we can go harvest from any object in the world. So we've got a metallic apple. We're using it on a maple tree. Maybe we'll get some metallic apples or something. Reinforced maple syrup. So there's some really weird things you can get. There's stats, there's skills, there's XP, there's leveling up, there's NPCs that you can just chat with. They all generate their own quests. They're very open-ended quests where they're like, hey, I really need something that can help me see further or something like that. So you go out and craft items that are helping them. You give them the item. It uses a lot of AI under the hood to determine whether that item solves that quest. Lots of stuff out in the world to explore. We are working on workstations right now. So, for example, this crusher we've built on this stream. If we take a geode, and I'm going to live demo it, hope it works, and we crush it down, like, let's just break it in half, I guess. We got a stack of 8. Hopefully it'll go to 7 and we'll get something new. Right now we're testing to make sure that the thing that you get is the same every time. So hopefully we should just get another half to geode instantly. Okay, we do. Cool. But if we break it down into another coarseness level, it'll go through that process of generating what that'll actually be. And that's kind of the flow for everything in this game of like, it uses a lot of AI under the hood to let you do things you couldn't normally do. But once you've done it, it will always be the same. So like a harvester potion and a unicorn tier is going to generate that crafting recipe, that new item, images for the items, stats on the items, and so on. But now from now on, anytime you combine those 2 items, you'll always get this item. And so you can just make a bunch of them. If you want more of them, you know what items you need to go collect, and so on. So we got our Harvest Unicorn Elixir. Gives you some stats, requires some stats. Or this one requires, I guess, a skill level. Lots of stuff to do. It's nice to see that our crusher now works. So what happens if we crush our reinforced maple syrup down to dust? Nobody knows, but we'll find out. We probably want some sort of like loading indicator on this, but I'm going to add that to all the workstations in town. So I might not do that on stream. It might just be something that I go and tackle them all at once. But yeah, I don't even know if I pressed the button or not. I don't think I did. Oh, maybe I did. Maple syrup dust. I see. Oh, and we're not showing the item acquired tooltip. That's probably the last thing that we should add. So when we add it to the player inventory here, I know for a fact we couple this code together pretty often. So if we just look around, friendship scores, gold, we're just looking for wherever that floater logic is. Q item acquired pop up. Yeah, that's what we want. Code is big enough now that I forget code that I wrote like 9 months ago. Let's see. Show the item acquired pop up. Cool. So now they'll get a little thing floating up the screen saying, you got this. All right. So this is all the code we needed effectively to write this new workstation. So that's nice. Maybe we could tackle the oven real fast. I think I've only been streaming for like 2 hours, right? Yeah, about 2 hours. We probably have time for another quick workstation, surely. And yeah, this has a placeholder model, obviously, where we'll generate the model later. But the oven is a good example of one of the models that we have a text to 3D model generator that we plan on using eventually to let players create their own workstations. So it'll create that they can place out in the world. We'll generate also a lot of this logic that we just built, which is pretty generic code, which I think we'll be able to do. And also the prompt that we worked on at the beginning of this stream that basically dictates the logic. So this prompt here of like, here's what you're doing, here's what you'll get as input, here's what you'll get as output, and so on. But I think maybe we can go ahead and sneak in this oven as a another workstation real fast. Let me check in what we've got here. So create crusher workstation, and we're good to go. So maybe we can speed run this one. We've got our crusher window. Let's say we now have an oven window. Let's turn that on so we can get started on it. Let's create our oven window manager. And we will attach that to this guy's panel trigger. So when you interact with this using the same systems you use to interact with like trees and moving and blah, 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 interacting with this will just open and close that panel, which makes it really easy to add these sorts of workstations. So let's find that panel we just made. Oven window, cool, cool, cool. We'll say cook. And let's give it the cooking skill icon. Cool. All right, so now we can jump over to our panel, build that, and then hook up the logic for it. So with our oven, the thing that we want it to do, this will probably change a little bit after the demo, but for now, I think we'll go with a button that we press to cook again. I think eventually we will want it on a timer of like, it'll automatically cook for however long. And you'll basically just put in an item. We could have something else like this of like temperature, like how fast it cooks, but I think we'll just put in an item for now. You click it and it'll cook it to the next stage. And we should be able to build that pretty quickly. Hey, Tony Sprocket, welcome on in. You just missed Spitz talking about, well, he's working on a horror game now, but he was just talking about a sports simulator game he made a couple years ago. So welcome in. Hope things are going well over there. We just finished, you know what? Let me jump over there and show you before we start on this second workstation. You know, we have like the anvil, the furnace, other stuff that you can craft items at in the game. We just finished the crusher, so you can So you can take items over there and crush them, as one might expect. Let me turn off this oven window, and I'll show you what we got. So we now have this nice white box here that you can imagine is a crusher, but it's one more workstation in the game. You can bring in some items such as this geode. You can say like what power level you want to crush it at. So this geode, maybe you want to break it in half. We should get something here in a second. I need to do the animations for like it's in progress, but we'll see what we get. And we should, yeah, we got half geode. So we could also break it into like pebbles or just straight to dust. Just a different way to like break down items into components. Curious what we break the lantern down into. That might be fun. But I want to see geode dust as well. But yeah, we just built this on stream. Now we're going to go over and do the oven now. I figure with a demo all about what you can craft and what you can't craft, maybe a couple more workstations is a good little stream thing to add in. Let's break this lantern into rough, crushed bits. Lantern pieces. All right. Yeah, I'm noticing it doesn't have descriptions on a lot of them. So there might be some flow things that we need to handle in the item creation service. But, I mean, the workstation itself works, so that's exciting. And this guy, this guy is a great one to talk to because he can't use words. Don't know why his collider's gone. But all of his dialogue is just descriptions and gestures, which is nice. Fun stuff. All right, we're going to go over and we're going to work on that oven now. We're going to get stuff cooking. Let's see what we've got here. So, do background. Let's just put a different placeholder here so we can tell the difference. Window title. Oven. Maybe the oven, like the furnace, we can have players need to feed in items as like fuel to keep it burning or something. But I don't think we need to do that for this demo. Alright, this action. Let's do that. Let's get rid of our slider and just have seems fine. Change this description to this item will be cooked. I mean, that's where we want to end up with. It's just like you leaving items in there for a while to cook them. But for now, maybe we say expose items to the high heat of an oven. Sure. That'll do it. All right, so now we need a prompt for what this does. Text prompt. Workstation oven. Alrighty. And now we are back to the fun part of the stream where I point my mic at my keyboard and just type away. easy peasy. Tippy tappy time. The best time. You're on your phone hotspots, so cutting in and out, no worries. We are just crafting away. We just got our prompt written for the oven workstation. Now let's test it by giving some example inputs. And the easiest one, let's just see if it abides by the examples. If we put in an aluminum bar, we get a melted aluminum. If we were to put in an ice cube, too cold to touch. I would assume we'd get some water. Yep, that makes sense. What happens if we put in water? It's just wet. We get warm water. All right, what happens if we put in warm water? We get hot water. Cool, cool, cool. What happens if we put in hot water? We get steam. All right, so we can kind of use heat now. And so maybe we could do like oak logs straight from the tree. We can kind of see patterns of like how you might be able to take these very specific paths towards crafting something you want. If you wanted like really, really charred oak logs or something, or if you wanted ashes, maybe you put something in and just keep repeatedly cooking it until you get ashes. So now you can effectively do that with the oven. We still need to rig it all up to work, but that's going to be the logic. Pretty simple there. So we can go ahead and start rigging that up now. So here we want our window manager to inherit from UI window so we can open and close it. We want a public inventory slot manager for oven item slot. And we want a public void execute oven. Sure. Which might work, but we forgot our oven logic prompt. Let's include that, but basically when you click this button, it'll make sure there's something in the oven. If there is, it'll get it. We definitely don't need to do all this based on if the item name is dough. What we should do is have a public dictionary item to item of an oven lookup table so we can reuse these recipes as we generate them. So we can say if oven lookup table contains key item, so we already know what we get when we cook this item. Good thing 7 of 4 isn't here. Every time you say oven, I break myself. Oh, yeah, you're right. I didn't even consider. And I can't even process the line that she says because it breaks my brain so much every time I hear it. All right, so if we know what this item cooks into, we can just give the item. If we don't know what the item cooks into, we need to do all the generation stuff. So what we'll do is let's go ahead and close all but this, go to our crusher window manager, which is going to have a lot of nice stuff we can just steal because we just wrote it. So this, we want our oven logic instead. And we are going to go look at our prompt. We hard coded in the item here. So instead, we'll just have a token for item. And instead of, and we'll just replace the item in here, which we need to serialize down a JSON. That's going to be fine. We do JSON convert. Is that what we ended up using? .serialize object. I think that's what we ended up using. I know we have 2 different ways to serialize, and one of them is not very good, but I'm pretty sure the Newtonsoft one is the better one. So now we need a callback function for on item cooked string new item name. So that gets called once we've passed this prompt our item to cook and we get a new item out. So we'll get an item name like melted aluminum. That will call on item cooked with that output, which is the item name. It's going to be a very similar process to this guy. Let's just go ahead and follow along down here. So now we want to see if that new item name that we are cooking into already exists as an item. If it does, we can just use that item. If it doesn't, we need to create that item. So we want to do item potential item is item database.instance.find item is instance. So if potential item is null, so now we need to create this new item, or if it's not null, we can skip ahead and just give them the item, but we'll do that. Item already exists, and give it to the player. So here, what we're going to end up doing is same as when we create it down here, but we're going to need another callback that will be called from it. So we've got public void on new item created, item, new item. So that'll get called from this item creation service dot instance dot create item from name. This name, when it's done, call this with the item. And then here there is some sort of bug with the crusher, I think, so we might end up looking at these later when we figure out what's wrong. But when we create the new item, we also need to fill it full of attributes. So we also want a public void on new item filled out. Item. So when we've created the item, we need to pass it back into item creation service dot instance dot generate completed item details, which operates on this item, and when it's done, calls this function, passing in the item. That's how we jump in and out of the service and pass data around. So now down here, we will do a lot of stuff that we'll get to in a sec, but we'll also have a public void complete of an execution, whatever we want to call it. Cool, and that's what we'll call from up here, complete oven execution. We will pass in oven lookup table dot get, or actually just item. So we know it has the key, so we don't need to worry about that being out of bounds. So both of these flows are now done. This flow, so we're creating the new item. If it doesn't already exist, we go ahead and create it. If it does exist, we can jump ahead to just completing with that item. On new item created, it's just a pass through to the next stage. On new item filled out, that's where we need to do this stuff, like adding it to the item database and so on. So that's going to add it to the item database. It's going to add it to the list of items that the player has seen or discovered, so they can see it from like traveling merchant inventories and like see it in shops and stuff. There's a lot of games, or a lot of items in the game, for example, that we hard code in, but they haven't seen yet. So they exist here in the items that exist, but they haven't been discovered yet. So we want players to both create that item and discover it for the things that they are creating. And then I think that will just culminate in complete oven execution of this item. And then this is where we will add that item, the new item, to the player's inventory and consume from the source slot, which is actually this. Easy peas. I feel like we can probably simplify this into like a workstation UI window real soon that does a lot of this boilerplate on its own and just lets us like override some methods. But I want to do a few more workstations to see the pattern a little bit better before we do that. So this is oven item slot. It's where we consume one from the slot and then we redraw it. We then add the new item to the player's inventory, which I'm pretty sure handles... Oh, it doesn't handle full inventory yet. That's fine. We can deal with that. And then we redraw the inventory so you see the item in that slot, and then you also queue up a little pop-up saying you received this item. And that might be the entire oven workstation. Could work. We're going to go in and find out. If it does work, we speed ran that in like 20 minutes, so that's exciting. Let's go make sure our workstation references are set up, and then we'll test it. After we spend 30 seconds compiling. Oven item slot is this guy. Oven logic is our prompt. We also want the exit button to call oven window dot toggle window to close it. And that might be everything. Not yet sure how we want to do the like in progress animations again, but we will do those eventually. But for now, it's just you'll just wait. Sure feels like it should have taken longer than 20 minutes, but I guess we can test it. Let's turn it off by default. Let's go into the game. All right, soon we will actually test it. All right, let's run over to that oven. Where is it at? You know what? We're gonna cook this lemon to ashes. All right, step 1, does it open the panel? It does. Okay. Step 2, item can be received. Cool. Step 3, when we click this, it should be doing a bunch of stuff behind the scenes and eventually give us a new item here and consume this down to 2 stack sizes. No errors yet. That's promising. Oh, yep. I know what we did wrong. And we can even just kind of inject it here so we don't need to recompile. But action button doesn't have anything bound to it when you click it. So we can say execute oven. Let's throw that in. We'll need to do that again after we're done playing because any changes we make in the editor here aren't going to save after we stop playing. But it should have it bound now, so we can click this. Theoretically, it should work without us needing to exit and come back in. Cool. We got a dried lemon. Perfect. Now, if we press this again, we should instantly get more dried lemons. That's testing that our recipes are saving. Dried lemon. It's a little slow. I'm wondering if it's recomputing. Roasted lemon. Yeah, it's Oh, right, because we never actually saved the output to the oven lookup table. So here we want to say oven lookup table dot add that with the item in the slot before we consume the ingredient. Cool, cool, cool. So that will fix that. But we now have dried lemon, roasted lemon, warm lemon. If we put our dried lemon back in, we can just keep cooking it until it eventually gets to ashes, I bet. And we'll get a different thing every time for now. So we'll take that out and we'll put in our burnt lemon. Let's see if we can burn that down to ashes. So we kind of need to give the player a use for ashes at this point. Charred lemon, okay. I really like the levels, the gradient. We got a burnt lemon. Oh, okay. So we've got ourselves a little loop there of we went burnt, charred, burnt. I think that's fine. Especially when the recipes stay, they persist. So it's not like you're going to get a random one each time. Charcoal lemon, okay. I mean, that's an interesting item. Enchanted lemon infused with charcoal, sure. Burnt lemon, sure. So we're kind of getting a wall here of like, we keep going back to a burnt lemon. Let's cook our bread. See if we can burn that down pretty well. And then maybe we can cook something that's very like rocky. So we got toast. Sure, sure, sure. Now we're probably going to get burnt toast, I imagine. We definitely need some animations here to keep you occupied while you wait. All right, burnt toast. Let's keep it going. Keep burning. Charcoal. Okay, okay. That would probably be good fuel for when we need to start fueling up this in the furnace. So if we put charcoal in and cook it, we get ash. Okay, what happens if we cook ash? I mean, this works pretty well. I'm surprised that it works after 20 minutes. I guess we can do a few more workstations. What happens when you cook ash? Can't stop working as soon as I say. All right. Interesting. We get nothing. I can't tell if that's like a custom item that I added or if it actually generated with no image for some reason. What happens if we cook nothing? What happens if we cook nothing? Anything? It'd be really cool to get some sort of like 2D shader effect that just like engulfs the item in flames while you're cooking it. Something more visual than just waiting here. Okay, maybe we can't cook nothing. I wonder why. There's not even errors. It's just NPCs being wild. Oh, okay. We did get one error and we went back to ashes. Okay. Sure. What happens if we cook ashes? This is, it works, so that's exciting. Got another error. Okay. Wonder if we're spamming the API with all these NPCs. All right. We burned ashes into dust. I think that's great. So now let's take our burnt lemon, combine it with some dust, see what we get there. Maybe we can cook a geode, see what we get. Who knows? We got sooty citrine. Perfect. One of the other workstations that I was planning to... Hey, Cozy, I see that. Oh, thank you for the sub. I appreciate that. What happens if we cook nothing? A subby. Well, I guess I'll never have nothing again to cook. I cooked it. Thank you. Thank you for the sub. I just saw that you walked on out. Hope you're having fun. Didn't know I'd be streaming along with you. But yes, thank you. One of the other workstations that I was planning to add is like a jewelry making bench. So you could take things like the sooty citrine, like a gem or a grape, I guess, if you want, and also attach it to like a ring or a necklace or something. Probably a good way to get some like equipment that's enchanted or something. Could be fun. I think I need to figure out how we want to handle, like, do we want like molds for you to pour like a material in for the band, like make an Apple band ring with this as the gem on top, or do we want to just let you skip the mold and just choose what kind of jewelry you want? Some questions there. Walking to the grocery store, subscribing to my favorite streamer. Wow, what a coincidence. Actually, Cozy Biscuit is my favorite streamer, and I can never remember if my command is shout out or SO, so I'm gonna do my best to shout out the Cozy Biscuit, who was last seen playing Minecraft. Chill little survival world. If y'all aren't following her, you should definitely check her out. She's got the coziest streams in the world, and they're not nerdy at all like mine are. And she's pretty cool. Also, it seems like we are not cooking our geode for whatever reason. I wonder if we got back something that parsed incorrectly. Oh, we got a heated geode. Okay, okay. All right, I can work with that. Cracked geode. Sure, sure, sure. Oh, that was interesting. It added to the inventory before it had an item, or before it had an image. So it was in the inventory, and then we added the image to it, and it updated in the inventory. That's interesting. I didn't think it would actually do that. Took some time, but I'm back. Welcome back, Spitz. Good to have you back. We actually speed ran and built another workstation in the game in the time that you were gone. It was only like 20 minutes or so. So maybe I'll do another one, but gotta decide what the next one should be. But welcome back. And thanks again, Cozy, for the sub. Appreciate it. Gonna do some developing in a bit. Got your stream open in the background. Nice, nice, nice. I don't know why. I mean, I guess I was gonna say, don't know why I'd be in the background, but you know, I leave streamers on in the background too, and I love the cozy vibes in the background. So thank you. All right, so we cooked our geodes a little bit. I'm curious if now that we've cooked our geodes a few ways, we can run over to the crusher that we built earlier, and maybe we'll get new things. Maybe we'll get new things from the geode in its cooked form that we wouldn't otherwise get. Let's go check it out. So we cooked those. What happens if we... We'll just do a rough break on the heated geode. See what we get. We get errors. I thought that you need some assets, if I'm not mistaken. I am personally using Meshy AI. You should check it out. Ooh. I do need assets, and specifically I need 3D, like text to 3D assets, which I would guess Meshy AI would be based on the name. And you might be right. Oh wow, you can just, okay. So you just download from like the community's assets. Interesting. Okay, okay. Yeah, I'll check that out after the stream. That's a good find. Thank you very much. We were using, oh, what was it? One sec. What is that I was using? I don't remember, but it didn't work very well, and we were looking for a new model. There we go. Luma and Genie is what we were using. But they take a very long time. The dimensions of the final product are very incorrect. Like you need to import them in the game and then manually scale them, which is kind of a no-go if you want to be generating these on the fly and inserting them in the world. So I'd love something that scales things properly. And also, it was very hit or miss on the quality. Let's break down our citrine. I want to see what we get with some sooty citrine dust. But yeah, thank you for that suggestion. All right. We get errors. I wonder why. Oh, that was from earlier, I guess. Citrine dust. Okay. So both the crusher and the oven are working. I think both of them, my suspicion is they do have a bug that they're not filling out the generated items with the proper item affixes. But I think that's a bug in our item generation service. So I think when we fix it there, it'll apply to both. And also any future workstations we add. So I'm wondering if we want to go in and just knock out a few more workstations really fast. Since, I mean, this demo is coming up real fast in like 2 weeks and it's all about the crafting systems. Probably be nice to have more than just like 2 or 3 workstations. Another quick one that we can do, like we have this oven here that you put an item in and it cooks it, and you get a new like cooked version. Very, very similarly, we could do something with the sharpening wheel, which isn't rigged up right now. You're harvesting from it. But it could do a sharpened version in the same way the oven does a cooked version. I eventually want to do some sort of like mini game with this one where you have to like press to the beat or do something more rhythm based to like press your item against the sharpening wheel in time for it to actually sharpen things. But we could definitely knock out the actual logic that we just did over here really fast. So maybe we'll do that really fast and we can have more workstations because there are more. We want more, but we're struggling to come up with ideas of like what workstations players need. And I think we'll get a lot of feedback from the demo, but we're just brainstorming for now, just trying to give them everything they need to like craft specific things. Because like when you talk to an NPC, for example, if I can get to him, he's just going to give you a really open-ended problem, which he hasn't generated a quest yet. Maybe he will after we've talked to him. One of their actions that they can do is reflect on themselves and their life and come up with a quest. But it's usually very generic things like, my furnace is too hot and I can't stand close enough to work on stuff, so I need help. And you can get them like gloves or leather aprons or like frost potions to drink or whatever. So when you as a player see one of those quests, the goal is for the player to have some sort of like general idea of like, ooh, yeah, that is a problem. I could probably solve it this weird way. If only I could craft this specific item. We want to give the players all the tools that they need to be able to get to that item. So if they want to make enchanted frost gloves, they should go out in the forest, harvest from a deer, get some deer hide, take that deer hide, use it with a needle and thread to make gloves, maybe enchant those gloves somehow with the essence of frost. Like there's all these steps that you can do logically to get to this end result item. We want to give the player the workstations effectively to do those steps in any order and get to an item that they desire or need. So very, very open-ended and ambitious, but so far it's fun. So at least there's that. All right, we're going to do a sharpening wheel then. Or, yeah. Yeah. It's set up right now to harvest from it, which technically works because you can use like an axe on it and it'll harvest with the axe, consume the axe, and give you back an item, I believe. Can't remember where we landed on how you harvest with weapons. Harvest controller. Where's that logic? Generic interactable world object. Interacting with objects. Weapons are treated like tools. Okay, so it won't consume the tool. So maybe we do need to build it into a workstation. Good co-working vibes, Cozy. Glad I can provide. I basically use other people's generations mostly because you can fine-tune your asset and I don't feel like doing that. I gotcha. Nice. It looks like a really cool tool to use, especially as we definitely built out a very generic world using the free assets and some of the paid assets that we happen to have. Now we're getting to the point where we need very specific things like a crusher and like a jewelry bench and things like that. So even short term, before we do all the AI generation of like letting players create their own workstations, we need to be getting a lot more of these in the game. But it looks like it might be a good opportunity to do it like at playtime too, or a good technology for it. So I'll definitely take a look. Thank you. All right, so let's speed run this even faster. We've got our oven window. Let's say sharpening wheel window. We will turn that into a mini game eventually. But if we were to take this, edit it, this is going to be almost exactly the same logic, just with a different prompt. So I wonder if this would be a good time for us to kind of generalize and build a generic single item workstation. It's probably not a good idea to do that because we want to turn it into a mini game later and give it its own logic and stuff. But for now, if we could build that script where we just provide a prompt for logic, we could probably knock out a ton of workstations really fast. They would all feel pretty samey, which is not great, but hopefully the logic being different in all of them would still make them feel useful. So maybe let's just let's build this one with a generic single item workstation window manager. Is that too long of a name? Let's say single item workstation window manager. And we're going to do our best to just make this as generic as possible. Maybe we can go replace the oven window manager with it. But we'll get this set up real fast. We'll test it. And then maybe we can knock out a couple other workstations too. So here, let's go ahead and just copy over our oven window manager logic. And we're going to just do some surgery. You know what? Let's structure this a little bit differently. Let's have this, but let's also have sharpening wheel window manager. Let's have this inherit from UI window. And let's have our new script inherit from this. Let's stuff as much logic as we can in this parent script, override where we need in the sharpening wheel window manager. And then that should give us a good sense of like what the overrides would look for the oven window manager and other workstation window managers. And also give us some like entry points to customize each one without necessarily just giving them all the same single item workstation window manager script. We can at least customize each one. So here, single item workstation window manager, cool. So if we paste in all this stuff, we can say workstation item, well, let's rename it with Unity Visual Studio stuff. Workstation item slot and workstation logic. Ooh, yeah, the lookup table is going to be different for each because, for example, the oven has an item and an int as a tuple for the item you're cooking, or the crusher has an item and an int as a tuple for the item you're crushing and the power level, versus the oven and the sharpening stone just have item to item for the item you're sharpening and the item you get out. So we almost want like a template for the key, but I don't really want to get into complicating it like that. Maybe we can just say simple lookup or simple recipe lookup table. We'll do this for now, and maybe we can expand this or like override it or something, put some helper functions around it later for different keys. But now we want execute workstation. This is inheriting from this. Okay, good. So when we can bind the button to execute workstation. It gets the item in the workstation slot, checks to see if that item exists in the recipe lookup table. Let's say complete workstation execution for that item. Otherwise, we use the workstation logic. Now let's go ahead and let's make this let's keep that public for now. We just sub in the item, which might also be different from workstation to workstation. But let's say an item cooked. What is that? Why did we name it that? It should be like on new item name generated. So we check to see if we already have an item with that name. If we don't, we create that item. If we do, we complete the workstation execution. So if we didn't have that item, we go ahead and complete its item details, which still feels like it's not actually running. But we'll look at that another time. And then when that's done, we get our on new item filled out, which adds the item, discovers the item, adds the ingredient to the lookup table, adds the output as its value, and then completes things by cleaning stuff up. So this should all work for both like the oven window manager and the sharpening wheel window manager. So there's actually no override here yet. But we need to write our prompt real fast for the logic. And then we'll get the sharpening window manager working. We'll test it. And then maybe we can go back to the oven window manager and just inherit from this as well. feel like it's possible I might want to add in like the loading icons and some other stuff that we want to manage now. So I know they're standardized across all the workstation windows, but we can do those later. So let's build our window for now. So can remove these. Sharpening wheel, cool. Control button's exit button is bound to sharpening wheel window, toggle window, so we close it. Information container, sharpen items on this spinning wheel. Sure. We'll want to like write real content later, but at least it tells people what this does. Let's see. We got our action button. Oh, right. I forgot. On the oven window, we kind of injected that in while we were playing. So we need to quickly add that. When you click the oven window action manager, we want to execute oven. Sure. All right. So over here, similarly, when you click the action button, we want to execute workstation. Cool. Let's change our action button icon to... Don't really have a skill for this one. Let's go crafting, I guess. And change our explanation. This item will be modified to be sharper. Okay. And lastly, let's go ahead and change this window background just to anything at all. That's fine, sure. Just making it look different so I don't forget. And we will set our references, which we haven't built the prompt yet. So let's do that next. But main action slot goes there. Let's go ahead and build our prompt. So create chroma golem text prompt workstation sharpening wheel. And actually, we'll steal a little bit of that so we don't retype, but I'll probably retype it anyway. And I'm going to take some water. You all should hydrate as well. Mike is going back to my keyboard so I can type without having to narrate my thoughts for about 30 seconds while I type out this prompt. Enjoy the, I think they're Cherry MX switches. that'll do it, I think. So what we can do is now throw in some example items. We can generate example responses so we can make sure that it's like capturing the vibe that we want. And we can kind of see a couple example items of like, oh, if you were to sharpen a sword, just a general sword, what do you get? You get a sharp sword, okay. You sharpen a sharp sword. Do you get a sharper? You get a sharp sword. Okay, that's not quite what we want. So let's even say like sharp dagger, example output of like, well, I don't even know what a good example is there. Let's say, let's actually just run this a couple times, see if we can sharper a sword, see if we can get something that is a little bit better. Sharper sword. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. We definitely don't want sharp sword. So adding sharp to dagger is probably not what we want. Let's go with old sword. Refurbished sword. So we're changing the prefix instead of just adding sharp as a prefix. See if we can get something a little bit better. Still sharper sword, sharpened sword. So we can say do not print, just print synonyms of the input item. For example, maybe that's good enough. Sharper sword, sharper sword. Sharp times infinity sword. I mean, sharper sword is technically a fine result there. So if we were to then sharpen a sharper sword, we get a masterwork sword, okay. Keen sword, so it does change it. Razor sword, okay. Sharpened razor sword, sure. Sharpened razor sword, what do you get there? Razor sharp sword, okay. So it's fine. It definitely makes things sharp. What happens if I give it a branch? Oh, also maybe the description might be throwing things off. Let's just, didn't realize I still had a rock description. So we have a pointed stick. Sure. Pointed stick. We sharpen that, we get a sharp stick, sharpened stick, etc. What happens if we sharpen water? Water cannot be sharpened, therefore it remains as water. Okay, so do not print any other messages other than an item name. Water cannot be sharpened, therefore it remains as water. So we just get water. Okay, water blade, sure, cannot be sharpened. All items can be sharpened. Ice dagger, water blade, ice dagger. Okay, we're getting there. What about level 2 sharp sword? I don't know if you're involving any of that yet. That's a good question. That might end up being handled through like the item affixes, but that's something I'm going to need to think about because I don't know how we want to do that. It's a good question. I'll hit you up after the stream about that, Tony. Question for you guys: over the last 2 years, popular games that are relevant to us: Baldur's Gate 3, Pal World, Path of Exile 2, Hogwarts Legacy. What other game releases come to mind? Good question. Trying to think of other games that even released over the last like 2 years. It's a good question. I'll think on it. Trying to I think you covered my list. Lethal Company. I've heard a lot of people love Lethal Company. I haven't played it though. It's actually, I think, what inspired Irregular Humans game. So it'd be fun to try sometime, maybe. I think it was inspired a little bit by Among Us, maybe. Palia, Minecraft. Palia is a really good one, actually, Tony. Uh, like the screenshots channel. Okay, cool. No worries. Yeah, Minecraft is a good one. I very inspired by Minecraft. I think a lot of game devs are. Spitz's game is inspired by Lethal Company. That makes sense. I feel like I didn't play it, but I saw a bunch of people playing it. It looked pretty fun. Potion Permit is a Switch game, but kind of reminds me of the gameplay. Yeah, I wanted to play Potion Permit. I think I saw you play it, maybe? Or, yeah, I don't think I played it. It looked fun, though. Anybody want to give me also some items that you think can't be sharpened? And I'll see what we get when we sharpen them. We will sharpen a potion, maybe? A potion with a blade. We sharpen jello. Sharpened gelatin. Perfect. Sleek gelatin. Stiffened gel. Honed gelatin. Okay. I feel like we probably need a few more examples of input and output to get the vibe right. But I think the sharpened gelatin worked out. Let's sharpen a permit, I guess. Sharpened permit, right. Let's sharpen some internet connectivity issues. A troubleshooting manual, sure. I do know out in the world you can find on the ground an uneasy feeling. I wonder what you get when you sharpen that. A steely resolve? I guess that makes sense. We sharpen Twitch chat. We get sharpened Twitch chat. Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe we say, and don't just add sharp or sharpened, etc. as a prefix. Focused chat. Okay, that's better. Let's go back to jello. Hardened gelatin. Not the greatest. Gelatin blade. Hard candy. Sure. Table. Now that's a great one there, Cozy. A wooden slab. Interesting. Focused chat is an interesting take. Yes, it kind of gets at one of the things that I really like about our systems is that you can use wordplay to get really interesting items. So if you think about sharpening something as like something other than like physically sharpening a thing, you could have like out of focus photo or something. If you found that item in the game, you could probably take that to a sharpening station because it's the same system and you get your clear photo. So if there's some sort of like quest where it's like, oh, this guy did it, but the photo is too blurry, you could go get that clear photo, then take it to whoever gave you the quest, give them the item, and they'd be like, ah, it's them. So that's like a really interesting way to use wordplay, I think, in the systems we've built. Sharpened sock, let's go. A needle, interesting. Or a sock dagger. Why a needle? Threaded sock. Sharpened sock. Why? I don't understand. But apparently you get a needle pretty often. How about a dirty sock? A sock puppet. Okay, we're still working a little bit on the vibes. I feel like craggy rock into smooth rock is also one that kind of throws things off. Let's take that off a little bit. It's not a great example. Dirty sock into a knife. Needle, cloth strip. Let's see. Don't add other materials to the item. Just sharpen it into a new form. 30 sock into a needle. Interesting. Huh. What happens if we sharpen a sprocket? We get a cog. That makes sense. What happens if we sharpen our mind? We get wit. There we go. Genius. Alright, so this should work, theoretically. So all we need to do is just change the template to item, which I don't think had the spaces. Let's go look. We swap in our item for this item tag here. And then if we go to our sharpening wheel window and just bring in this prompt we just wrote, we should be able to walk up to the sharpening wheel and start sharpening stuff in game. And we built it so generic we can literally just write prompts now instead of writing other code in order to get other workstations working, which is not only cool for getting more workstations, but also standardizes things a little bit better and brings us a lot closer to being able to just generate new workstations. Like a good example here of the oven. So this prompt consists of some instructions, some example inputs and outputs, and then some more instructions. All of that could be generated by another prompt if we ask the player, like, hey, what do you want? What kind of workstation do you want to make? And they said, I want to make an oven that cooks items, or I want to make an oven. We can take that, generate this prompt to saying like, hey, the player is creating a workstation with this name. Here's an example of other workstations and the format they have. Generate this, generate examples, blah, blah, blah. We can let them create the workstations that they want in the game. We generate logic and like the code for it effectively. And they can place those workstations and create their own like crafting area or like automation setup. Maybe they create like a item duplication workstation and it generates this to just say like, oh, they get 2 of the item back. Or that's a bad example because it doesn't really fit in this pattern. But they want to create a workstation called a crystallizer that just turns everything into crystal. It'd be pretty easy to generate this system message for that workstation, plug in this logic into that workstation, generate the model for it for them to place in the world, and then have it so they can just go to that workstation and put an item in, click a button, and it just works without us needing to write any of the code for it. But, right, I didn't change the sharpening wheel to a panel. Let's go do that, and then we'll test this guy real fast. Let's see here, where are we at? Player controller. Here, we want to change this to not be a interactable world object, but rather a generic interactable panel trigger. Sharpening wheel. Use, and the skill we want associated with it, maybe blacksmithing. Can't remember which one we used. I think it's that one. We could also do like crafting or something, but all we need to do now is link it to the sharpening wheel window. And now we apply that so sharpening wheels in other towns work the same way. And then we can walk on over and should be able to sharpen our stuff. Maybe? And yeah, I think we'll test this I like this system. I was going to go back and redo the oven with it. Um, but I think what I'll do is take some time off stream and think through like whether there's any other pieces we want to include before we start standardizing all the pieces together or all the workstations using it. And maybe we'll, once we make sure that this works, we will maybe end the stream and I'll be back next week to show off the next cool stuff that we're building. But let's test this out. Why are we so wiggly? All right, so things to sharpen. Let's sharpen an apple. Surely it'll just work. We got an apple dagger. Okay, so it's probably going to be a really good way to create weapons. And it's nice that this does create affixes. So I was worried that the systems that we built were like bugged and not creating affixes, but I think what was happening was we just weren't creating affixes on crushed items, which kind of makes sense, which is a fun bug to have. But we should get more apple daggers immediately if the recipe saving is working. Okay, it is. So let's sharpen our saw. Gonna do your workout in a bit. All right, maybe I'll stream a little bit longer, but probably not too long. My throat's hurting. I'm ready to be not talking. All right, we got a hand saw. Okay. So sharpening seems to work. We sharpen our net. We could sharpen an Eye of Madness, which is a pretty good bug generator because it has an affix that we don't expose to players. So I'm curious if that'll break things. What did we sharpen to get a harpoon? I don't recall, but we have a harpoon now, so that's fun. Let's sharpen our Eye of Madness, see if we can get some bugs. Maybe we can sharpen a geode too. Will it error? No. Okay, we got a sharpened eye. Sure. Geode. We're just sharpening everything now. We'll sharpen our fishing rod. And our lantern. Telescope. We got an obsidian dagger. Sure. Okay. Getting some weapons. It's a good source of weapons, I suppose. Let's do a fishing rod. Oh, okay. Fishing rod gave us a harpoon. Interesting. I guess that kind of makes sense. If you sharpen a fishing rod and just yeet it at a fish, I guess it could be a harpoon. Let's sharpen our lantern. Maybe mortar and pestle. I guess we could sharpen a whetstone. That makes a lot of sense. Sharpen a shovel. Got a lantern hook blade. Oh, that's got some good stats right there. Crit chance and a lot of damage. If only this game had combat in it. Let's sharpen some grapes. Yeah, one of the things I want to add before I go and just apply the system to everything, raisin dagger, is like how we want the loading screens to work, how we want like some ancillary data to work, like with the crusher, how we want to also store the power level and things without needing too much custom code. So we have an apple dagger and a raisin dagger. I wonder if we can get something fun. We also got a grinder's mace. Sure. Ooh, excuse me. Grinder's mace. I see we got an error when we deserialized. Oh, because it generated critical strike chance with the spaces. So we need to go in and make sure that the prompt specifies like don't add spaces, or we can go strip the spaces. Probably both is what we should do. Let's sharpen a telescope. We'll just sharpen a few more things and we'll be done here. What do we got here? Spyglass. Sure, makes sense. We did get our items back from trying to craft our raisin dagger and apple dagger. So maybe we can try this again. Blade stone, sure. That's from our whetstone. We got a fruit ninja blade, perfect. So let's sharpen our shovel. I guess we could sharpen the fruit ninja blade, see if we can make it better. We can also just take a weapon and just repeatedly sharpen it to see what we eventually get. I didn't see what we just got, but I'm sure it was wonderful. Spyglass. Alright, let's sharpen our obsidian dagger, see if we can just sharpen this too much. Obsidian stiletto. It's got more damage. Shadow Fang. Okay. Now it has cold damage. Gonna go get it started now. Good luck with the rest of the stream. Thank you, Cozy. Good having you here. Have so much fun. Alright, we sharpen Shadow Fang, which is such a cool weapon. Oh, it does shadow damage. Okay. Or it does cold damage but adds shadow damage. So now we have a shadow blade. So we probably want some sort of like resource that is used for this, because you can just keep making better and better items. But what I think is going to be fine. Ooh, okay. So we ended up with an item that we kind of goofed it up. What I think we'll end up doing is turning this into like a mini game where you need to apply some skill, and I think that can be a good resource. And things like the oven, you can kind of do the same. It doesn't give you like better and better weapons per se, but you can just keep cooking infinitely. So we'll probably have some sort of resource like you need to put in something that's burnable in order to use as fuel, and like have that as an item sink. All right, let's sharpen up our fruit ninja blade, which is a pretty darn good weapon. I think when we get the demo out, we can probably do some challenges. Tony, I don't know if you're still here, but we can probably do some challenges on like who can generate the first weapon with like 100 damage or 1,000 damage or something. We got our precision blade with 75 damage. So if I were like trying to get this even stronger, I'm like, do I want to sharpen this? Do I want to like combine it with an apple dagger, which has 25 damage? Like maybe I do that. And then like that also gives me the recipe to be able to undo it if it's not less. So that's 50. So it just averaged it out. So maybe I go over to the anvil. I break that back down to get my 75 damage weapon back. And then I go over and try and... Oh, this still has colliders on it, even though the things are invisible. But now I try maybe sharpening this. I think we should definitely do some like challenges of who can craft the first item that does X, Y, and Z. Especially now that you can Control Alt click an item and it goes or will go to chat, and you can hover over it and everyone can see, oh, this guy did it first. It's probably a good way to submit the items instead of like screenshots on Discord or something. Oh, there's a bug. If you hover over an item in chat and then close chat, we never fire the mouse exit event. So I need to fix that. Let's see. Anything else we want to sharpen? Spyglass. Apple dagger. Gets fruit ninja blade, sure. Sharpen a harpoon, maybe. A monocular dagger. Masterpiece blade. Monocular dagger. Sure. Let's take that, combine it with an eye of madness. Monocular? Monocle? See what we get. Javelin's pretty cool. Sharpen our javelin, I guess. I would say this works pretty good. It's definitely really good for creating weapons, which I guess makes sense for a sharpening wheel. We got a lance. Okay, we're getting there. It's got knockback distance. Requires some strength. Eye of precision. Let's combine that with some bread. Why not? A pike. All right, we're going through the RTS items. Pike sharpens into a lance, so we got a loop there. I guess we can sharpen an axe, see what we get. It's probably going to turn it into a weapon. A battle axe, okay. So what happens if we sharpen a harvester potion? Or fruit. An elixir of precision. Okay. There's some interesting crafting possibilities here. Did we already sharpen bread? We did not. I bet we could do like a big old wheel spinning here. It's just like a little decorative thing. Dagger bread. Alright, let's sharpen that. We'll make our bread sword. Backpack and tool belt. Combine that. Okay, we got a knife. Sure. Let's sharpen an explorer's pack. We're just vibing here. Maybe we'll go over and just cook all these weapons. Just to test out that system as well. We have so many weapons now, actually. Dang. Multi-purpose utility tool. What a waste. This pack was so much better. Alright, oven. So if we cook our Fruit Ninja Blade with 31 damage, critical strike chance, and an extra 10 damage, what do we get? Hey, no, nameless coder, welcome on in. I recognize that name. How is the overlay going? We got a heat damaged Fruit Ninja Blade. I guess that makes some sense. Maybe we can cook it even more. Let's just cook our eye as well. See what we get there. A brittle metal blade. Oh. Alright, let's cook that. Where did this blade go? Brittle metal blade. Yeah, we kind of goofed it. We destroyed that weapon real good. Burnt eye. Oof. What if we keep cooking the eye? It is done, I think. Started on the game. Awesome. Is the game, is it related to the overlay? Like, do they integrate it all? Or were you just doing the overlay before you started streaming on the game so you'd have the overlay? Alright, we finally got ashes from cooking that eye. Cool. Our game is going well. We have built a surprising amount of stuff today. I'm just vibing at this point, kind of just testing out all the systems at this point. But I don't know how much you've seen of the game, how little, how much. But in short, basically you play as an alchemist. You can combine items in the game with alchemy. So that generates new crafting recipes on the fly. It generates new items on the fly. So if you want to take your hoe and a pulley, there's no crafting recipe for what those combine into in the game, but we generate all that on the fly. We create these crafting recipes that persist. So once it's generated, you'll always get that item. So we got a pulley hoe. whatever that is. We have a lot of like NPCs that generate quests and have very open-ended solutions. So basically the gist is you learn about these problems the NPCs are having, and then you go out in the world and craft your items in order to give them those items and solve their problems. But we've been building more workstations to let you craft in new ways. So we just added this oven, which lets you cook stuff. So there's no recipe in the game for what happens when you cook a grape, but it'll let you cook it, and you can keep dragging those items back in, and so on. We got a we got a raisin. We also just added a crusher, so you can take items and crush them down. I'll show that off too, but let me grab whatever this raisin cooks into, a dried raisin. Let's go take a look at that. Oh, actually, I want to also grab this dropped item off the ground. Got a wooden handle. I'll sharpen that in a second. Let's see here. Where is... So we also built this crusher, which doesn't have a model yet. But you can take items here and set like a power level for how much you want to crush them. Like just break them in half versus pound them down into dust. You can drag in items there. Again, all this is generated on the fly. So you're getting different things, but it just gives you a lot more tools for like this really in-depth crafting system. So we got breadcrumbs if we crush bread into dust. Maybe we'll get some apple crumbles or something if we crush apples. But you can customize like how much to crush things. I still want to stylize a lot of things, but basically we're just building a bunch of new items in the game, or new crafting systems in the game. I also on this stream just added the sharpening stone here, sharpening wheel, and we just picked up a wooden handle, which I wanted to see what we got when we sharpened it. Where did that go? Wooden handle. There we go. So if we sharpen that, I wonder what we'll get. Surely some kind of weapon. And I need to still add like loading animations and stuff. A wooden point. Okay. So not quite what we needed. Maybe we can sharpen that again into like a arrowhead or a spear point or something. But we can probably attach that to something else to make a weapon. A wooden dagger. Sure. So, you know, that's kind of how things work. There's a whole big old world to explore with lots more objects and items out there. We don't have combat in the game yet, but we are about to put out a demo of our crafting system in a couple weeks, which hopefully everyone will be able to play and check out. And yeah, let me link the Steam page because I'm doing the whole spiel here. You can wishlist the game there. It helps us. But it'll also give you notification when the demo's out. I'll also post on Discord and stuff. But yeah, that's kind of the gist. There's a whole big old world to explore out there, which is really fun. And I'm excited. Did we just walk through that wall? I'm excited to see people play it and experience it. All right, that was a long-winded way to answer how the game was going. Your overlay was just to get back into Godot after not using it in a year. Makes sense. Wanted to add little robots at the bottom, so like stream avatars, but have no art yet for the game, so waiting on that. That makes sense. I think this might be my first time seeing your game, but looks cool. Thank you very much. It's definitely in progress. It is definitely a lot better than it was like a year ago, like around the time we started it, and it's shaping up. I look at it and I see all of the things that I still want to do, and there's just only so many hours in the day, but it is very fun to work on. Is that tree floating? It's very fun to work on, and I'm excited to get this demo out so other people can play with it. Okay, well, maybe we can rush through one more, one more workstation. I said I'd stop streaming a little while ago, but we just built this system that makes it so easy to add new ones. So now we just need to decide what workstation we want to add. We built this system that basically is reusable for all workstations that have one item in and then some logic and one item out. So that covers the oven because one item it goes in, it cooks, you get a new item out. Covers the sharpening wheel because one item goes in, it gets sharpened, you get one item out. It kind of covers the crusher because you get one item in, it gets crushed to some varying level of degree, and then you get one item out. So I'm trying to decide if anybody has any suggestions for like another workstation in that pattern of like what you might want to use to manipulate items in the world. We could do some sort of like extractor to like extract essence, like you put in an item in and you get back the essence of that item. Or I think I have some placeholder workstations over here. Maybe we could use a weaving wheel. Doesn't really follow the pattern because we want to do more of like different templates and stuff that you can craft from that. A shaping table, again, is probably going to have more of the like anvil style workstation where you're getting different shapes that you unlock. We could do like a cooling bath, maybe. You put an item in and it gets cooled. But that's kind of boring. Anybody have any suggestions? We do have, if nothing else, a tumbler for polishing items. You put in an item in, you come back after some amount of in-game hours and the item is polished, like kind of like sharpened, but less aggressively into a weapon. More like you have a rock and it becomes a polished rock. And I guess we have a shaping table, which again, we probably don't want to do here. Yeah, I guess we could just do the tumbler. Trying to think of, like, there's a lot of workstations that I want to add in that are not just one item in, one item out. Like another cooking one would be you add in like all the ingredients and then we ask an AI saying like, hey, the player is cooking something with bread, cheese, and meat. They put those items in. What do they get? They get a burger or whatever. But I'm trying to think of things that are just one in, one out right now. What is this? Is this our crusher? Did I finally find it? Oh, extractinator. Okay. Yeah, these workstation models are pretty rough because I used our genie, our Luma genie. But who was it? My stream cut out earlier, so I forgot who linked us the new 3D model site, but hopefully that'll give us some better models. You know what? We can just do the polisher real fast. Or the tumbler. Is that really different than like a sharpening stone though? It's kind of the same thing, just less. Like I don't really want to make workstations just to make workstations. Have a sharpening wheel for most things. Like if you put in a craggy rock in a polisher or a tumbler, you're going to get something very similar to if you put it on a sharpening wheel. Let's go look at the other town. What are we missing? Cauldron is another one that I planning to do a more advanced workstation in. We could do something in the church to like bless items or curse items, or we have some spells that we want to build, like inverting items was a weird one. You know, I think we have done some good workstations today, and my stream cut out about 40 minutes ago, and so it reset the timer, but I've been streaming for 3 or 4 hours, I think. I think I'm happy with what we've built today. I'm going to maybe call it here. For could also do something with the rune stones though. There's so much more I want to do, but I feel like I should take the time and like think through the design of what we actually should do. And maybe I can get some ideas from Tony and people in Discord. Yeah, I think that's what we'll roll with. I appreciate everyone coming by. Nameless, thanks for checking in. Let me also link the Discord for anybody who wants to join. We are gamers, game developers, and just a little community of people working on our own games. It's a great place to get feedback on your game or other games. I will probably hit it up later tonight to get some feedback on other workstations that we want to add in the game. But I'm pretty happy with what we've built today. We have a lot left to build, but we are also planning on our Steam demo for the crafting system being out January 15th. So we are hustling and bustling to get to it. Let me see. Nobody I follow is streaming right now. I guess it is kind of a holiday. So if anybody has any suggestions for someone to raid, I'd be happy to raid them. Otherwise, I'll just sip on this water and I'll end stream awkwardly in a minute. And yeah, it's been real fun hanging out with everyone. We got a lot done today, way more than expected. Special thanks to Anthrax Addict from earlier, who kept calling me out every time I got distracted and pushing me to actually get things done, even though he was the one linking me to things that would distract me. Much appreciated. Thanks to Cozy and Tony and Nameless and everybody else who showed up. So have some good holidays, everyone. I will be back normal time next week, this day at 1 p.m. Pacific time. And until then, I'll be coding away. Hope you're going to have a good week. And that's it. See ya.